Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well and happy Boxing Day to you. This is our last little compilation over the Christmas period. Again, if you're like me, it's absolutely chaos over this few days. Visiting family members, cooking, preparing, all that kind of stuff. So I hope this keeps you going today whilst you're doing whatever you're up to. And I wish you and your families all the best. Much love to you. Let's crack on. Today's first story comes from Visual Lifeguard 8937 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit and says, Am I the arsehole here wanting to break up with my girlfriend after her ex's funeral? So my girlfriend and I have been together for about 4 years. She used to be close friends with her ex. However, he tried to make a move on her while she and I were together. So she cut off their friendship. They knew each other for about 10 years. They were high school sweethearts and stayed together throughout college. They broke up because he did not want kids. He died recently, and my girlfriend was invited to the funeral. While I wasn't happy, so to speak, to see my girlfriend cry about this guy, I swallowed my emotions and offered my full support. She asked me to come with her. Here's where things get messy. She kept talking about she wishes they never broke up in the first place and that she's never met someone who she loved as much as him. She made a speech about how she says that if things had been different, they'd be a happy family with children. I had to force myself not to say anything then. Now we're back home and she hasn't said anything about what she said. I'm so close to just leaving, but I just don't know if she only said that out of grief. You know, whenever I talk about stories about losing someone, I talk about grief. I always say, grieve in your own way. As long as it's healthy, we all deal with loss in different ways, but this didn't feel like that. She's absolutely fine to be sad about losing him and, talking about what a great guy he was. Yes, you may feel uncomfortable from that, but that is acceptable. However, she talked about her potential future life, what could have been with her ex and not OP, which is just so disrespectful that she basically loved him more than you. And how embarrassing would that have been? You was invited to this funeral, so you had to sit there whilst I assume everyone knows that you're her boyfriend, and she sort of gushed about him in front of everyone. Being told that you're basically second best, that you're living in this guy's shadow. But next status says not the arsehole. People can say, be understanding she's dealing with a heavy loss, but that doesn't magically fix the sting of words she said that hurt you. If this was within 6 months of the breakup, maybe I'd be more understanding. However, you've been together for 4 years. They ended due to his desire to not have children, so not only is she hurting you, she's lying about a dead guy by telling everyone the fantasy life she had imagined for them, as if it was holy writ. What the fuck? She's more than allowed to feel grief due to their decade-long history. However, she's not allowed to treat you as less than, second, or just good enough. You 100% deserve someone who puts you first always, with very rare exceptions, and this ain't one of them, honey, as I'm sure you've done for her. Hell, you went with her to the funeral of her ex because she asked. You were there for her, and she showed you where you rank in the grand scheme of things. Leave for you. Choose to put yourself first because guess what? She showed you in a room full of people where you rank. You deserve more than this betrayal. Boomer Quest says not the arsehole. It's completely unacceptable for her to say those things to you. She's full on telling you that you're the backup and she cares so little about you that she'd just tell you to your face with no remorse or consideration for your feelings. Insane. OP responded, to be clear, she didn't say these things to me. She was talking to others. Exciting Tabletop replies to that saying, that is worse. I guess she's hurting, but she told everyone that you don't matter to her and were just the backup. It's no longer your problem. Move on to someone that does love you for you. If she was drugged up from a surgery, sure, you might let it slide, but she knew what she was saying. Talk it over with her, but honestly, expect to walk. Another user says it's one thing to think something because you are grieving. It's another to invite your boyfriend to a funeral and then say that thing in front of him and everyone else. At minimum, this is extraordinarily cruel of her, and she should have known better even if she was grieving. How'd you even come back from that? And a final comment from BMiss70 who says, not the arsehole. While it's completely understandable she feels intense grief at her ex's passing, it's pretty sad that she just made your 4-year relationship less important to her than a what if fantasy of her ex that never happened. I'd say break up with her because she just publicly told you and everyone at the funeral that your relationship with her means little to her. If you stay, you'll always be competing and losing to a dead ex. So OP comes in with their first update that says, "Hello everyone. It's been a stressful couple of days and my post got a lot more attention than I expected. It was overwhelming, to be honest. It's been a week since the funeral itself and I've been talking to some friends as well as reading comments on my last post. Truth be told, I've been hesitant to talk about this to my girlfriend because she's still been depressed. She's not talking to me at all and I've been taking care of everything around our place. She's just been laying in our bed. I've tried to talk to her, but she just shuts me out. I've been reflecting on our past relationship and realized a couple of things. My girlfriend was never as passionate with me as she was with her ex. She never did anything as romantic or thoughtful for me when compared to her ex. For example, she's never gone traveling for more than 3 days with me, but she traveled often with her ex, sometimes for years. It's not like I haven't offered. I was simply told to get over it and that each relationship is different, and people said shit like, if she wanted to be with her ex, she would be. Something also to note is that some of you actually pointed my attention to another post, one that's about a girl going to her ex's funeral. I read the post and I don't know if it's actually my girlfriend or not. Some details are different, like our age. We're both 30. Also, I never said anything about breaking up with her for going to the funeral. I wasn't exactly happy to see her mourn the guy who wanted to sleep with her while she was with me, but I didn't actually say anything. Now that post admitted that she actually cheated. I thought about this for a second, but it doesn't matter, because if she cheated or not, I already broke up with her. I did have a talk with her. She refused to at first, but not responding to me. But when I told her I was leaving, she finally said something to me. I basically told her that I feel like crap ever since she said those things at the funeral. How I feel she would rather be with her ex than me. I felt like her second choice. She started to yell at me, calling me selfish, and that she's lost one of the most important people in her life and I shouldn't make this about me. I was too tired to try and yell back. My things were already packed up. I'm staying with my parents for a while. Our lease doesn't expire for a few months. I don't know what she's planning to do. I don't know what to do now. I thought I was going to marry this girl someday and have kids, but she wanted someone else all this time. I appreciate all the comments and I don't know if I'm going to post another update, but thank you. So before we move on to the next update, a couple of comments. Ricky Descardo says, and quotes about the section calling me selfish and says, here's the thing. She didn't lose one of the most important people in her life. She made it clear that she lost the most important person in her life. And quotes about how she kept talking about how they never broke up in the first place and says, I don't know what other conclusion to read from this. I could certainly see feeling sad or down when an ex that you've known for a significant part of your life passes away. But that's not only what occurred. She wishes they never broke up. She never met someone who loved her as much as he did. And if things had been different, they would still be together. In each of those thoughts, you are at best second place. Never includes you. She is with you because they broke up. She doesn't think you can ever love her as much as he did. And if things were different with him, she would not be with you. Is she mourning him and the significance he had in her life? Or is she mourning someone she still loved and mourning the loss of the opportunity to still be with him? You're not selfish, and you do not want to be with someone where you will always be a placeholder. So a couple of months later, OP comes in again and says, I got a lot of support from this subreddit last time and I appreciate it, so I figure I should update you all. It's the day before Valentine's and I'd actually planned something for my girlfriend before this whole mess started. I can't help but to think of her. Our shared friend group didn't side against me, but they've been supportive. Both of us, it seems. I've explained to them why we broke up and they're all pretty understanding. My friend and his girlfriend are friends to both of us and I've asked them about my ex. Apparently she hasn't been doing good. She's back to work. She took like 2 weeks off work, but besides that, she hasn't been out of the apartment. She hasn't tried to reach me and I haven't tried to reach her. Our lease expires next month, so I don't know what she's planning to do. She could afford the rent on her own, but she'd be scraping by. I've been tempted to reach out. I hated breaking up, but I hate even more how we broke up. It feels like I left her behind when she needs me the most. If she reacted like this to anyone else, I'd be there for her, no questions asked. But I know better. I know I'd be resentful because she still wants her ex over me. I wanted to thank everyone for the support last time, and I guess this is just me venting. A lot of people telling OP that they did the right thing and should just continue doing what they're doing, but 6 weeks later, OP updates saying she finally reached out. I came back from work to my folks' place and she was there. My mum let her wait for me. While I'm upset with my mum for letting her in and not giving me a heads up, that's another issue. When I came back, my mum went to the store to give us some privacy. I was a mess inside, but I held it in. She asked how I was and what I've been up to, and we talked as if we were just catching up. I finally asked what exactly she wanted. She said she's sorry for what she did and regrets how things ended between us. She went on to say that she did genuinely love me, and she did want to start a family, but the sudden death of her ex simply hit her too hard. She says she's sorry for what she said and that she didn't mean them. I didn't say anything and was just trying to process what was going on. She didn't actually ask me to get back together. I told her that no matter what she said now, I can't forget what she said at the funeral and how she acted afterwards. She said she understood and just wanted to talk to me. I told her that I don't think we can be friends and that I don't hate her, but I just don't want to be near her. She left and I was left a wreck. She seems to be okay. She looked healthier than the last time I saw her. I'm actually moving out from my folks' place and I'm not going to tell her. I'm going to make sure my parents don't say anything. I hope that was the last time I see her, at least for a long while. Oh, and one quick thing I wanted to mention. My name is off the lease at our old place. The landlady was very understanding. I figured I should mention that because a lot of you told me about that. And Big Buy says on the back of that one, your ex-girlfriend is still lying to herself. In her mind, she didn't do anything that wrong. She's already moving on. She came back to tell you she decided it was one of those wacky things. That's all you ever get for closure with people like her. It's best to delete all pictures of her, give away everything she ever gave you. Don't ever use her name, just refer to her as my ex. She lied to you because she was lying to herself. She always held out a little hope that he'd grow up and get his shit together. When he did, they could finally be together. When he died, that hope ended. That's why she's just walking away now. You were always her, Mr. Right Now. And I'm not sure I felt exactly the same way as that comment afterwards. I just kind of felt like this is the best possible thing in this situation, that they both just move on their separate ways. I don't think OP was ever going to come back and, be able to have a relationship with her, knowing where his position would be. She came back, apologized, explained how she was feeling in that particular moment. And look, OP doesn't have to forgive it. They haven't. They didn't even have to listen if they didn't want to. OP said that I don't think we can be friends and that he doesn't hate her and that's that. They're just going their separate ways now, which, like I said, I think is the best, potentially one of the best outcomes in this particular situation. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from Efficient Wedding 80 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit that says, am I the arsehole for not telling my dad I got rejected by college on the day the result came out? I, 16 male, am a senior in high school and applying to colleges. I applied to 8 colleges and got 3 rejections, 2 of which I thought I'd get in. The other 5 are much harder, and I already know it's pretty much certain I'll be rejected from 2 of them. My dad, my mum passed away, so he raised me, is really disappointed with my results. He's so disappointed that he went to school to talk to my counselor and called me lazy in front of him. And my friends are getting into good colleges, which makes my dad even more mad at me. I thought my stats were enough to get into college, ranked 3rd in class, 1,580 SAT, took 4 AP exams and got 5s on all. Captain of the sports team I play for, founded a volunteer project that raised 30k and other stuff. Since I know my dad is really mad at me, this week the result of another college I thought I'd get into came out and I got rejected. I didn't tell my dad right away because I didn't have the courage. I didn't want to see him even sadder with me. I waited for the best time to tell him, but when I did, he didn't find out from someone else. He wasn't too happy that I took so long to tell him. Also, this week my best friend since I was 8 got a likely letter from Harvard, meaning he'll probably get in. We're both only children. He's like a brother to me and I can't imagine my life without our friendship. I was so happy and we're supposed to spend today together to celebrate. But my dad banned me from leaving the house and using the car. He said it's because of my behavior of not trusting him by not immediately telling him about the application result, and for me to reflect on what I did throughout all the years in school and getting these results. So on the happiest day of my best friend's life, who grew up with me, who's like a brother, whose parents always took care of me as if I were their son, my dad is prohibiting me from being with him. Was I such an arsehole for not telling him immediately? I think my dad overreacted. Edit. Dad is a high achiever, has a PhD from a top school and is very smart. My mum died when I was 3 years old, so my dad raised me alone. I always find stories like this just incredibly sad. 16 years old. Man, when I was 16, I didn't know what I was doing. So you sound like an absolutely amazing person that's achieving amazing things at your age. I can't even comprehend what you were achieving. I didn't understand a lot of those results. But you sound like an amazing son that anyone should be proud of. I'm telling you now, he should be turning around to you no matter what happens with your college and saying, I am incredibly proud of you, regardless of where you go. And he should be reflecting on, in my opinion, on his behavior. He's the one that's caused this distrust to the point where you were too nervous to tell him about that. That is just heartbreaking. I couldn't imagine, your hypothetical child not wanting to come up to you and share these details with you because they're too nervous to tell you, because you're going to put them down, shout at them because of these results. And I just find that heartbreaking for you. But Tofu Born says, not the arsehole. You're not an application machine. You're a human with impressive stats who hit a bump on the college road. Not blasting bad news the second it arrives doesn't make you the bad guy, especially when dealing with rejection isn't as easy as pie. Dad's reaction? Overkill. Grounding you for not being a speed post messenger and missing out on BFF's big day. That's not a lesson. That's a punishment looking for a crime. Time for Dad to switch from Disappointment Express to Support Central. Remember, even superheroes need a moment to regroup after a setback. Opie says what pisses me off the most is not being able to hang out with my best friend. He said he was going to bring his folks over to talk to my dad, but I think that's just going to make things worse. My dad's doing it on purpose because he knows nothing would piss me off more than missing out on this day with my friend. So I felt Dizzy says, I feel like your dad should go to his room and reflect on how he arrived at this point where his exceptional son, who achieved 99th percentile scores, cannot trust him not to overreact to less than perfect news. Full disclosure though, the way he's talking to you reminds me of how I was treated by some teachers for having ADHD. I feel really cross about what he has done. And Little Panda says, yeah, I mean, short of something like bad media attention, OP's stats were all good. OP is kind of proving he's right about his dad's reaction. Does the dad not realize that Harvard denies plenty of valedictorians and people with perfect SAT scores every year? College isn't just to be valedictorian / get perfect SAT scores and get instant college acceptance, especially now. I went to a decent state school and I'm pretty sure I'd have been rejected if I applied a few years ago instead of decades ago. But OP comes in with her update and says, first of all, I wanted to thank you all for the support I received from you. You guys were really cool and made me feel calmer at the time when I was very sad. Yesterday, my dad came into my room for the first time in my life and he apologized to me. He said he loves me very much regardless of any outcome and that his behavior in recent times has not been right. He hugged me and said I was the most important thing in the world to him. I think my dad did this also because today the MIT results were coming out, which is one of the colleges I applied to as a reach. And I got in. Damn it, I got into MIT. I opened the results and it was just me and my dad here in front of the laptop. It was the most exciting feeling of my life. We hugged and cried. I'm going to study at MIT. A couple of comments after that. Inappropriate access. Woo, congrats. And good for your dad. It can be hard for a parent to apologize to their kid, and it's wonderful that he was able to. Enjoy MIT. The Sky Elf says, I don't think a lot of parents realize how important those honest apologies are. I'm glad Opie's father could. Savan says, I remember clearly my dad sitting down when I was maybe 10 and apologizing for smacking me when I was younger, that he'd got it completely wrong. That was 35 years ago. and he's been gone for 6 years, and that conversation is still intensely important to me. And I agree that, apologies is definitely a step in the right direction. Part of me was thinking though, what if opening that letter was a negative result? I'm not trying to put a downer on things at all, but what if it was a negative result? How would the dad have acted then? He's happy now because Opie's going to MIT, but I hope that it was really a turning point. Dad does truly reflect on the way that he's treated his son. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from Horse Cow, who says, me, 26 female, with my boyfriend, 27 males, sister, 28 female, filled my yard with gnomes. I got rid of them after 2 months, and boyfriend is furious. I'm not sure what to do. My boyfriend's sister, Chrissy, pulled a prank on me 2 months ago. She left about 50 gnomes in my front yard. No warning, they were just there. I called people and asked them, but no one would tell me. I guess this is part of the prank. I fucking had no clue what was going on. Eventually the kids in the neighborhood started picking them off, so I brought them inside my garage. 2 of them were pretty cute, so I cleaned them up and put them in the house. I waited for someone to come clean, but no one did. After 3 weeks, I decided I was just going to donate them. A few friends asked if they could have some, and I let them. I started giving them to people who commented on one being interesting or cute. I told my boyfriend about my army and he laughed. I thought he might have done it, but he said he honestly didn't, so I believed him. Well, he went on a 4-week trip with his family to Europe. I got a few emails from him, but we were both busy. I went on a trip myself for work and for pleasure. So when he got back, he asked how the gnomes were treating me, and I let him know most of them had found new homes. He got really silent and asked how many I had left. I told him 10. He asked who took them and said we needed to get them back. I was confused. It had been 2 months, and the gnomes were kind of a funny story, but I don't remember everyone who took one, let alone the kids who picked about 10 off the lawn. He then told me they belonged to Chrissy, who I thought had just stored them in my garage, which is why she didn't pick them up before the trip. Chrissy is his sister. Apparently Chrissy has been pulling the gnome army prank for years, and I am the bitch who gave away her army. My boyfriend is furious with me and asked why I would do that. I told him he should have come clean and I would have just kept them in my garage for her to pick up later. He said it wasn't how the prank worked. He said he needs to rethink the relationship. He wants me to get them back as they are dear to Chrissy. Chrissy doesn't know yet. I'm not sure what to do about this. I had a few people offer to return their gnomes, but the rest of the people said they gave them away to so-and-so and didn't know where they were now. This is such a surreal situation and I have no fucking clue what to do about it. I don't see how I was wrong, but I feel bad, so what can I do? I don't understand their logic in this situation. You knew nothing about what the hell was going on, just a bunch of gnomes that had turned up on your front lawn. To even leave them on your front lawn anyway, if they're that precious to Chrissy, is just insane because anything could happen to them. If someone randomly left a whole bunch of gnomes in my front garden, I'd be like, first, what the fuck is going on? And secondly, after a amount of time, I'd be like, yeah, they got to go. You got to store 50 gnomes somewhere. I mean, that's a lot of space by the sounds of it. But regardless, you're not responsible for this. And the fact that he's saying that he needs to rethink the relationship because of this. But the first commenter says they have no reason to try and hold you accountable for not following the unreasonable rules of a game you didn't know about. Give back the gnomes you have, but don't feel like you have to acquiesce and go out of your way to try and recover the gnomes that are lost. That's not your business. They left a bunch of stuff on somebody else's property, unannounced and unidentified, and you shouldn't be blamed for cleaning up your property. Opie says, I'm willing to give back the ones I have and have gotten 3 back from people. Drunker Clunker says, and quotes OP saying, I told him he should come clean and I would have just kept them in my garage for her to pick up later. He said it wasn't how the prank worked. And then said, oh, I get it. So how the prank works is you secretly leave someone these 50-yard gnomes and then you wait 2 months until they start getting rid of them because what else are they going to do with them? And then you come clean like, oh my god, no, those were mine and they're super special. And you act super offended and it gets all dramatic and everyone has a good laugh. right? Great prank. Sigourney laughs and says, what the actual fuck? God damn, girl. If this dude and his sister are too dense to realize that no one is going to hang on to 50 gnomes for 2+ months while they figure out who they belong to, I don't think there's any help for them. Show him this post responses. He's being ridiculous. You cannot reasonably expect someone to keep 50 fucking garden gnomes. If they were that precious to her, she should have come clean about it after a week to ensure that she got them back. 2 months is absolutely preposterous. I would have donated a lot of them. Actually, I probably would have recycled them all. Don't feel bad. Your boyfriend isn't being fair at all. Edit. I bet he borrowed them from her and he set the whole thing up. Then he neglected to come clean, even if he swears he didn't do it. I don't believe him at this point based on his reaction. And you gave away the gnomes that he borrowed from his sister, and now he realized she might be upset and is blaming you. What a dum-dum. Sorry. Another commenter said, here's my bet on what happened. Boyfriend decided to pull a gnome prank on you without telling Chrissy. Because he knew they were his, he probably felt almost like he was storing them himself. Your SO's place does start to feel like your own after a while. Too bad he never let you in on this part of the plan and you did what most people would do with abandoned stuff. Toss or donate. Now he's facing the prospect of telling Chrissy he took the gnomes and lost them. And one more comment saying similar, saying, I highly doubt it was his sister's prank. If she cared about the gnomes that much, no way she would have left them on your lawn for 2 months. Also, he probably would have immediately told her that she was losing gnomes fast instead of continuing to keep quiet. His reaction makes me think he borrowed the gnomes from someone who didn't realize they weren't going to get them back. He done fucked up, and instead of owning up to it, he's trying to make you feel like shit. Seriously, that's not how the prank works. Rethink the relationship. Is he always this sensitive? You can ask him what's really going on. Is this really about the gnomes? You seem disproportionately upset over a prank gone wrong. And/or if you want to keep the peace, you could try apologizing to the sister, even though it's not really your fault. So OP comes back in with an update and says, I decided to bite the bullet and talk to Chrissy. I brought the gnomes I had to her house and knocked on the door. Chrissy's mum answered and asked me in. I was tired of the immaturity in mind games. My boyfriend has been sending me threatening, get me more gnomes bitch type texts. I could see a lot of red flags or red hats, if you were so inclined. I wanted Chrissy to have her gnomes back and just get it over with. When I handed Mrs. Mum the open box, she asked where I got these. She seemed really upset I even had them. I told her the story, pretty much what I said in the last post, but with some more detail. Her reply was, Joe has been telling a totally different story. She seemed really hurt about the whole thing, and while I wanted to make a quick getaway, I was fucking curious. Blah blah blah. Mrs. Mum told me a little bit of background. I'm not going to repeat everything she said because some of it's sad and pathetic and a little too dark for a post about a gnome invasion. The gnome army belonged to Chrissy's late boyfriend Steve. Steve and Chrissy used to put them in people's yards and then demand another member for their army. So the gnomes came from people Steve and Chrissy knew over a period of about 5 years. Steve passed away. Chrissy stopped the gnome pranks and put them into storage. She has not pulled the prank in almost 2 years now, but freaks out if someone mentions getting rid of the gnomes or even moving the box. I felt like an arsehole, but Mrs. Mum thanked me for bringing some of them back. She did say the annoying line, you should have kept them even if you didn't know who they belonged to. She did say she was going to replace the gnomes in the boxes with other ones and hoped Chrissy didn't notice. Not sure this is a smart idea. She said she wanted to believe me, but that this is likely the last time she'd want me in her house. Gee, thanks. I said that was fine. I had no intentions of staying in a family who pulled weird pranks then blamed the victims. One bridge burned. I mean, I understand she is likely upset because Chrissy apparently doesn't handle any mention of Steve well. She is likely going to be upset and never speak to the person at fault again, which is likely me. How I got them out of storage unit 3 hours away. The mystery will likely haunt their family for years. As for my now ex-boyfriend, I went to his house and asked him why he pulled the prank. His answer was stupid and telling. I don't know. He wouldn't answer me and he wouldn't tell me what was going on. He said he just wanted to do something cute and it got out of hand, and he thought I would keep them. Something about having his own little secret made him happy. I got my things from his room and left. I told him that our mutual friend Jake would bring his stuff by at a later time. Jake agreed to this and said Joe's story was BS. I guess Joe told people I got the gnomes out of the storage unit and put them in the yard to get attention. That totally makes sense. I guess it was spiteful to do, but I did send Chrissy a message on Facebook. The message said, "Chrissy, I don't think we'll be friends after this. I know you want to believe your brother, but I did not take your gnomes. I did not know why they were in my yard or even that you had them. Please understand I would never aim to hurt, steal, or take from you. Your brother admitted to putting them in my yard, though I have no idea why he did it." Opie continues, "I got an okay back, then she blocked me. I blocked Joe and his family, and I'm not sure what to do now. But it has been a really interesting few weeks for sure." And a couple of final comments from OP. Someone said, she's got a great story to tell people, which, it is. OP says, "Yeah, it's pretty weird. Has to be the strangest end to a relationship I ever had. And I have some doozy ex-boyfriends." Have a doozy. Someone suggests to OP it's got to be a troll post, imagining sort of like a bunch of adults having a feud over gnomes. OP says, "I didn't feud. Why the fuck would I want an argument about gnomes? I returned what I had. I got rid of the ones that were in the yard. And the issue was the fact my boyfriend lied and made it into a huge deal." And OP says one more thing, saying, "Even I can't take this seriously. This is a shitty thing to do to anyone, but the fact that Chrissy had some sort of secret gnome army belonging to a dead boyfriend seems so creepy. And my ex is just, it was an arsehole thing to do, gnome or no gnome." I personally didn't find the gnome thing creepy, She's obviously going through a lot of stuff, losing her partner. And I'm not excusing any of the behavior from that side of the family, by the way. It's just going down that path, And although most of the time on this channel, the pranks always go wrong. Another example right here. I kind of like the idea of what they used to do as a couple, like putting the gnomes in people's yard and then like, "You must add to the army." I thought it was quite a funny idea. But back on the weird object, something that has a memory for most of my family was an old plate, like a dinner plate, and it was like an old British World War I helmet. It was white and it was chipped with little black bits, and it was just like, it's like the worst looking plate you've ever seen in your life, but it's something that brings back memories for all of us when we see it. It's absolutely worthless in monetary value, but to us, that memory is just wonderful. But how about you guys? Is there any sort of like items that you keep from past family members that bring you some joy to keep around? OP's totally right from getting themselves away from that family at this moment in time. Boyfriends are more on, mum's not helping the situation by trying to lie to Chrissy about this whole situation. And again, not excusing Chrissy's behavior and blocking you or anything like that, because again, it's not OP's fault, but she's clearly dealing with a lot of shit as well. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story does have an update as well. It's from Revengeance666 from the Am I the Arsehole and the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and says, "Am I the arsehole for not kicking my friends out of my house when my nephews came over? I, 26 female, had this happen yesterday. And so far, my family keeps saying I'm in the wrong. So I was spending my first Saturday off in weeks planning an outing with my friends, but at the last minute, my sister asked if I could babysit my twin 9-year-old nephews, since her mother-in-law was having a medical emergency and they had to go to the hospital. I agreed because I know her mother-in-law has heart issues. She's already had a pacemaker put in. So I cancelled my plans and my brother-in-law brought the kids over. Since some of my friends were already over, they helped me watch my nephews and we did some family-friendly activities, like watch Scooby-Doo, order pizza, and play around with my child-safe face paints along with some Mario games. Sounds like a good time. It wasn't the weekend I planned, but it was fun and my nephews and friends enjoyed themselves too. Thankfully, my friends have met the twins before at events I've invited them to, so I didn't think it was an issue that I didn't chase them out of my home the moment the boys were dropped off. When my brother-in-law and sister came later that night to pick up the kids, they were surprised to see my friends there and my brother-in-law asked if they just came back. I explained they didn't and that we just made a day of taking care of the kids. They both gave me looks and took the kids home. Me and my friends pulled out the wine and some ice cream and decided to watch horror movies. Midway through, I got a text from my sister demanding to know why I let strangers around her children without letting her know. I told her she dropped the kids on me last minute and she knows the 4 would come over today, and the 2 of them live at least an hour away from us, so sending them back would have been rude. My brother-in-law also messaged me saying he felt uncomfortable that I allowed strange women to touch his children. I literally know my friends' husbands and wives. I don't get why they're making a big deal about it, but today I woke up to more messages of how I endangered the kids by having them around strangers, and worse, alcohol in the house. We got drunk and posted pictures around midnight, I guess. Don't remember much beyond the Insta post. Most of our relatives are saying I prioritize my friends over my nephew's safety, and I'm confused as fuck. The only one on my side, and weirdly, is my sister's mother-in-law, who turns out never was at the hospital. So I don't even know where my sister and brother-in-law were all day yesterday. I don't know. The twins were dropped off on me at the last second. My friends are known by the family. We never drank or did anything adult until after the kids went home. Did I seriously fuck up here? I'm so confused. And By the Brook quotes the section about the mother-in-law not being in the hospital at all, and the commenter says, "Your sister's mother-in-law is on your side because she knows your sister lied to you about a medical emergency. I wouldn't be surprised if your brother-in-law is running an offense to distract from their lies. Now your family are focused on what you did when babysitting, not your sister's lies and leaving her kids with you in the first place. Simple solution, they shouldn't ask you to babysit your nephews again, since you did such a poor job in their opinion. Not the arsehole." Pink Spotted Butterfly says, "Not the arsehole, you did them a favor. You didn't have the kids in a dangerous situation. You sacrificed your night and your friends were kind enough to help it make it fun for the boys. Next time tell them one of them will have to stay and watch their own kids, or let them pay a professional to do it." Neo says, "Not the arsehole," and I'd forward screenshots of those messages to said friends and tell them that apparently they are dangerous to children so they could all have a laugh over it. I'd fully understand if it was friends your family didn't know, but as you said, they do know them, and frankly, if I'm trusting kids to my sibling, I'm also trusting that said sibling can be trusted to vouch for other people that might be around the house. If I didn't trust a sibling's judgment like that, I wouldn't have had them watch the kids in the first place. And the alcohol thing is just the cherry on top of the icing on the cake. Do they really think you were exposing the kids to alcohol? You specifically kept it packed away until after they left. It's like uppity drama mums being butthurt because they saw a teacher having a drink at a restaurant on a Friday night. Buddy, your fam needs a reality check. Badly. So OP came in with an update and says, "So people wanted an update on what happened after I spoke to my sister's mother-in-law, and basically had to force the truth out of my sister and brother-in-law by threatening to call our parents, and well, the reason they wanted me to babysit was extremely stupid. So let me give you guys a little info on my sister and brother-in-law. Before they had twins, they were into the swingers scene. After they were born, they stopped, or that's what they told everyone. Turns out the twins were old enough to be left alone. They would have mother-in-law babysit while they went off to clubs. She figured it out and refused to babysit anymore, so they moved on to our parents, who also apparently said the same thing. They also threatened to stop helping them pay the mortgage on their house if they didn't start being better parents. So that left me. Apparently they've used me to watch the twins to go out with couples before, but this time was a last-minute date they had, so they lied about mother-in-law's health. The thing that started all this was due to one of our aunts seeing them that day with the other couple, and they were afraid of this getting back to me or to our parents, who already told them they'd stop helping them with their mortgage if they kept up their swingers lifestyle while the twins were still little. So when they saw me posting pictures later that night, they decided to lie and say that I invited people over after I agreed to watch the twins for the week so they could have a Valentine's child-free week and spread this through the grapevine. They hoped that people would be too busy being furious at me for being an irresponsible aunt, enough that our aunt would be too busy with the family drama to remember what she saw that day. So yep, this was the BS they pulled on me. Mother-in-law was with me when I told my parents, who were livid that my sister lied to them. Parents are telling the rest of our relatives through family chat what happened. They're going to talk to my sister and brother-in-law later, so I have no idea how that's going to go. But yep, apparently they made up this whole lie just to cover up the fact that they went out with another couple and dumped the twins on me for it. So yeah, not the craziest update I've seen here, sorry about that, but thought I'd let you guys know. Edit, I don't care that they're swingers, I'm just annoyed that they lied to me to get me to watch my nephews. And someone asks a question saying, are the twins your brother-in-laws? Opie says the kids are his, even without the DNA test, they look like him when he was their age. Opie said at the end there that not the craziest updates. It took me by surprise, I gotta say. When it said the swinger lifestyle that everyone seems to know about. It's like, what the fuck? Anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from Disastrous Day 3751 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit and is titled, Am I the Arsehole for being mad at the best man's girlfriend for making him choose between a dog and our wedding? And it says, my fiance, male 29, and I, female 26, got engaged last October after 6 years together and plan to marry this October. We both have a very complicated family, so we thought a lot about our wedding and decided that we just want peace and don't want to worry about all the family drama. So we plan to get married in Italy with only our best man and maid of honor. It's only a 4-hour drive to a small city we once discovered on a road trip. We invited my maid of honor / his best man to the wedding. Call him Mike, male 29. And told him that they could bring their significant other also. The trip would be fully paid and Mike is my fiance's best friend since kindergarten. Mike's girlfriend, let's call her Courtney, female 28, and him are together for 3 years. We were very welcoming towards her and I befriended her also. We did a lot of things together, helped them move and build their home. Mike and Courtney are getting a dog, hopefully in September. So Mike told us he needed a different hotel because the one we chose is not dog friendly. And at the time of our wedding, October, they would probably have the dog. We apologized and looked for another hotel. Then he texted that Courtney thinks the dog wouldn't make the long drive, which we understood. We said that there are probably a lot of friends and family who could take the dog, but Courtney doesn't want that. Mike told us that Courtney would probably stay home with the dog and he would travel alone. Here comes the drama. The following day, Mike wrote us that he will not come to our wedding because Courtney doesn't want to be alone with the dog for the weekend, and she also would like to attend the wedding. Courtney wrote to me that we could change our wedding month or the place, maybe just a wedding in our hometown, so that they would come. I said no. If we married in our hometown, the families would want to attend, and all the drama between parents and siblings would stress us out. My fiance asked Mike again if he couldn't come alone, and he finally told us that Courtney threatened to end the relationship if he doesn't stay with her and the dog. My fiance was absolutely sad and disappointed and told Mike his feelings. He's normally not over emotional, but that was hard for him. Courtney wrote me the following day as if nothing has happened, and I told her that I'm absolutely disappointed in her and can't understand her behavior and how she puts this dog, who is in absolutely no danger or need to have 2 people dog sitting him, over our wedding, and kind of expected her to apologize for all the stress she put us through. She called me insensitive and an offensive person, a bridezilla who wants her wedding above everything, and said she couldn't accept my behavior even if I apologized. I just can't comprehend why I should apologize. I feel like I can express to friends if I'm disappointed, and I absolutely didn't write anything offensive. Opie then mentions that English is not their first language, so apologies for any of the mistakes, and then says edit 2 to clarify there is no dog yet. They talked to a breeder. He said that if his dog mama gets pregnant and has more than 3 babies, they would get one in September. Now this is one of those stories that made me instantly think, I wonder what's going on in the background in that relationship, that she's threatening to end the relationship if he doesn't stay with her and the dog. Yet the dog isn't even there yet. The dog isn't even in this world yet. It's all a hypothetical situation. And it's one of those situations I wouldn't be bowing down to any of those demands from her, etc. You know, you can't attend, that's up to you. But at the same time, I think I'd be saying to Mike in some kind of subtle way, is everything okay? And of course, I don't think Opie has to do that, but I think it's something that I would do. That's a couple of relevant comments. Someone says Courtney is out of line and not worth knowing. OP says, okay, thanks. I really couldn't understand her either and started doubting myself. My birthday is in 2 weeks, and I wrote Mike that I don't want her to attend because I'm too mad about all that. And he wrote me back that she said she doesn't want to see me or my fiance for the next months, even if I apologize. So I guess not seeing her will be an easy thing. Someone says, why can't they just postpone getting the dog for a month? OP says they want to get the dog from a breeder, who says it's mandatory to get the dog after 12 weeks or someone else would get the dog. Someone else says, wait, so the dog isn't even pregnant yet, and they don't know how many puppies she'll have. OP says, yes, you are absolutely right. Maybe I should have made that more clearer. A, the dog is not even pregnant, and B, they don't know if there are enough babies for them to get one. They have priority 4. That's why I wrote they will hopefully get one in September, because it's not even clear if it's happening. Yes, they talked to the breeder and he put them on the list. The dog is not even pregnant, but if she gets pregnant and if she has more than 3 babies, they would get a dog in September. A lot of ifs. I don't think it's about money. Everything would be fully paid by us, and I really don't think we gave her any reason to hate us, but I don't know. Someone says this just makes her argument even worse. OP says yes. If I wouldn't feel so sorry for my fiance and a little bit for Mike, I would find it absolutely justified and funny if they don't get a dog. Maybe Mike would wake up about this shitty choice if he missed our wedding and didn't get a dog, so he'd just have to sit at home alone with Courtney while we're having a blast in Italy. Some info on Mike and Courtney. OP says, yes, we did tell Mike that we are not changing anything now. He told us that he won't come to our wedding. He's sad about it, but doesn't want to break up with Courtney. They recently built a house together, and she talks all the time about children, so it's pretty serious between them. My fiance and I don't even know what to feel about all that. And little side comment there, but that when it was talking about children as well, I thought, bloody hell. You know, I absolutely love dogs. I absolutely love Poppy, but you know, it's responsibility, and dogs and children at the same time. That sounds like taking on a hell of a lot of responsibility all at the same time. I know people do it all the time, but holy moly. Couple of the top comments from the post. So Bulbasaur Ranch says, whoa, what the fuck? That girl is way out of line. That's some crazy behavior. There is zero valid reason Mike can't attend. He's pretty spineless to himself to allow her to dictate his plans like this. Courtney is the kind of person not worth knowing. I begin to exclude her from everything but continue to invite Mike to things. Eventually he will realize that she is preventing him from doing things. Not the arsehole. Euthanasia 63 says, oh dear God. OP, tell Mike and Courtney you will be getting married as planned and staying at your chosen motel as planned. And if Mike would like to have a free getaway and stand up for his longtime best friend, he would love for him to come. But if he can't, he will be replaced. You don't have to care if Courtney comes. Mike seems to like her, but she sounds unreasonable and angry. I wouldn't be upset at all if she didn't come. You are trying to have an easy wedding. This is almost an elopement. If Mike and Courtney can't get on board with your plans, you can move forward without them. Your wedding isn't about them or the dog. They might have adopted by your wedding date, and how the dog can't be left with a caretaker for a couple of days, because the girlfriend of your fiance's best friend can't bear to do that. I roll my eyes. Not the arsehole. Death and Taxes says not the arsehole, and I feel a bit sorry for Mike, to be honest. They didn't even have a dog yet. I think even looking for another hotel so that their currently non-existent dog could travel with them was incredibly accommodating of you. There are several solutions available to them. Wait and get a dog after the wedding. Have a family member dog sit. Put the dog into kennels. Have Courtney stay home with the dog, but the only solutions Courtney feels acceptable would be for Mike to miss his best friend's wedding, where he is to be best man, or for you to completely change your wedding dates or venue to accommodate their currently non-existent dog. You have nothing to apologize for. There is something else going on with Courtney. I really hope that Mike does go to the wedding, because I think he will regret it later if he doesn't. And a commenter says, I don't feel sorry for Mike. He can choose like everyone. Right now, Courtney forces him to an ultimatum. He has to figure out where he stands. So OP comes in with an update and says, we discussed sending this thread to Mike, but decided ultimately against it as he first wanted to talk to Mike himself. Before revealing that I posted this whole thing on the internet, they met in secret. Courtney was at work and Mike broke down crying. It's been super stressful for him. He asked his family, especially his mum, to dog sit, but Courtney declined. His mother was furious that he would miss my fiance's wedding. She loves him, but Courtney told her that she had changed her mind and decided to let Mike go. But then I wrote her an offensive and mean message, so they decided against it. Mike lost it at that and told his family that she had never allowed him and that my message wasn't mean at all. He really told her that he wants to go and she should just live with that. She cried a lot and he felt bad. My fiance told him that he asked another friend of them, who has a little child, to come and he said yes. His wife even asked us if we wanted her and the baby to come. She would understand if that's too much, but we're happy to also invite them. Mike cried after hearing this and realized that he will not attend our wedding now because of Courtney. Today, Mike wrote my husband that Courtney told him that she was overreacting because she had the feeling he wouldn't value the dog and that it's a good practice thing for a baby. She doesn't want to apologize to us, but would accept if he goes to the wedding. I think Mike's family made it very clear that they think she's crazy for this and she wants to be viewed as a good person. My fiance said that he won't change that back and that Mike sadly will miss the wedding because we can't be sure that there is no more drama with Courtney. I know that this is hard for my fiance, but he hopes that Mike realizes now what Courtney will cost him now and the future. Thanks for all the good wishes, and I'm hoping to be married in Italy this October without Courtney. And one of the top comments on this was like that they feel sorry for OP, that they didn't want any wedding drama with their family, so they was only having like 2 attendees to go. And then there's a bunch of drama over a hypothetical dog. And I think they made absolutely the right choice to go ahead with the wedding without them because, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen in the future and you might get involved in more drama and you just don't need that for your wedding. I still stand by the fact that, you know, the door, if they themselves are open to it, of course, leaving the door open for Mike. And hoping that one day he realizes what he is going through, what he is losing by being with Courtney. Because for me in this, there's some serious manipulation at play here. And we've seen it in a lot of relationship stories where abusive people isolate people from their families and their loved ones. Obviously, I don't know the full ins and outs of the relationships, but, you know, it certainly felt that way to me. So whenever I see comments like, you know, Mike should grow a spine, etc., I always think it's very easy to say, like, when we're reading a story like that, you know, everything's not that simple, is it? You know, we don't know the full ins and outs of what Mike is going through in the background. We don't know what's normalized for him, which I know some folks might disagree with me on, but I really do hope at the same time that, you know, they have a great wedding, but I also hope that Mike gets some kind of support that he truly needs. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Pizza Throwaway from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. Does have an update and says, am I the arsehole for making my niece eat leftovers while others had pizza? My 39 male, sister-in-law 31 female, had a bachelorette party on Saturday. I volunteered to babysit her daughter, Tammy, fake name 9 female, and my wife's cousin's kids, 9 male and 7 female, at my place while my wife, 37 female, her sister and their cousin went to the party. Also present were my own kids, 11 male, 7 female, and 2 female. Are you keeping up? For dinner, we decided to have pizza. I made the order through an app. Now, I still don't really get what happened, but the order was taking forever, and I was unable to contact the delivery guy. The pizza place wasn't helping either. After waiting for 90 minutes, I decided to cancel the order and pick a different restaurant. The reason I'd waited so long to cancel was because this was both my daughter's and Tammy's favorite pizza place. I managed to get my daughter to support the new restaurant by telling her they put ketchup on the pizza. Don't kill me, but Tammy was insistent in the first one. She had a crying fit while we were placing the new order. Even after she calmed down, she was still grumpy and short with the rest of us. At first, me and the kids made efforts to cheer her up, but then she started telling us to shut up or leave her alone whenever we tried. Throughout the wait, I reminded Tammy and the other kids that if they didn't behave, they wouldn't eat the pizza. She still complained about the new restaurant multiple times. When the pizza finally arrived, Tammy opened the box and said, "I'm not eating that shit." Holy moly. She said that in front of the younger three. At that, I put leftover chicken pasta in the microwave and told her that was her dinner. She started crying, saying she wanted the pizza and would behave herself, but I held my ground. Tammy didn't eat any of the pizza, but all the others did. My sister-in-law is calling me unfair and cruel for forcing Tammy to have leftovers while the other kids ate pizza. She's also accusing me of favoring my wife's cousin's kids and my own, and insisting that there were better punishments that didn't involve excluding Tammy. My wife's completely on my side. Her cousin is on the fence. Am I the arsehole? Edit: to clarify, the pizza arrived at 8:30. The kids had snacks at 6 and a large group of lunch before that, so none of them were hungry. Edit 2: some people seem to think that this party/social gathering for the kids. It wasn't. I was babysitting. I was the only adult responsible for them. Also, Tammy is neurotypical, and once she told us to leave her alone, we did just that. So there was a comment about Tammy's language, and OP says, "From what I gather, Tammy knows what words like that mean, and that she's not supposed to say them." I think that was the nail in the coffin for me. Someone says, "What did others say was a more reasonable punishment?" OP says, "My sister-in-law suggested that I could have told her about it after she picked up Tammy, and she would have figured something out. Yes, sister-in-law wanted me to give the pizza and let her deal with Tammy later. Knowing my sister-in-law, I'm not sure that would have actually happened." Someone says, "Is Tammy close to her mum's soon-to-be spouse? Could she be upset about something else?" OP says, "I have no way of knowing for sure, but I really don't think that's the case. She's very excited about the wedding. Her behavior on Saturday wasn't completely out of character, but it was a severe escalation. My sister-in-law's fiance has been in Tammy's life since she was 3. He's the only paternal figure she has. And there was a lot of people confused about the ketchup and think that Tammy didn't want ketchup." OP says, "You do realize this has nothing to do with my question, right?" I know for a fact that kids like ketchup on pizza, but the only reason I told my daughter that was to get her excited about the new pizza. For the kids, this wouldn't have been a bad thing. And even if I thought my daughter might tell the other kids, I was with them at all times. I know she didn't. And then there were some grumpy, downvoted people trying to blame OP for things. Here's some of his answers to those. OP says, "Okay, your comment was the latest one, so let me take this opportunity to make some things clear. The kids did have access to food and drinks while waiting. If they were hungry, they could eat, but no one was hungry. I did have planned activities. We watched movies, we played board games, the younger girls even did my hair. The kids had fun. The only thing that went wrong was the pizza delivery. I didn't expect praise for babysitting. I barely even consider it that. Half of them are my own kids. I said it wasn't a party/social gathering because it wasn't, and the idea it might be could lead to someone to look at the situation differently." Oh, I can imagine the shock when a 9-year-old turns around and says that and when this pizza turns up. Holy moly. And I don't know if I feel like I'm wrong in saying it, but I don't think that was an unreasonable punishment. You know, she said it's shit, so don't have it. It's not like you starved her, you made her something else. She's just not getting the treat that you bought for everyone. And I just don't think it's the harshest punishment in the world. You know, you're going to say it's shit, fine, don't have it. And there was a bunch of other youngsters there at the same time, which, you know, just isn't great behavior in front of them. So OP kindly comes in with an update around 2 weeks later and says, "Hey Reddit, it's been almost 2 weeks since I posted. I can now say that the situation has been resolved. First of all, I want to state that I always knew this was a parenting problem. We love my wife's sister, but she's not a great person. She's loud, abrasive, and occasionally selfish. Sister-in-law also has the mouth of a sailor. She shares that last trait with both my wife and their mother, but unlike them, she can't control herself in inappropriate settings. She doesn't swear around young children and has taught Tammy that swearing is bad, but doesn't punish or berate her for doing so. Sister-in-law is part of the kids plus swearing equals comedy squad, so she usually just laughs. Well, I'm also an honorary member of that squad. There's a time and place for that. Which is why I was appalled at those who said Tammy's actions were normal behavior for a 9-year-old. It's not. That part I already knew was rude. My question was whether I was right to deny a pizza over it. And after reading your comments, I've concluded I did the right thing. Some of you advised me to refuse to babysit Tammy from now on. I decided I wanted to give sister-in-law and Tammy an opportunity to apologize first. My wife called her sister and told her that neither me or her would agree to babysit Tammy again without an apology. Sister-in-law didn't think they had anything to apologize for. They had a long discussion over the phone. It stopped when sister-in-law called their mother, who took my and my wife's side. Mother-in-law agreed that we had every right to refuse to host someone who didn't respect us in our home. That's when sister-in-law finally apologized to us. Tammy doing the same soon after. We have no interest in blowing things out of proportion, so both apologies have been accepted. Sister-in-law's wedding is later this month and we're all attending. I don't want people to think that my niece and sister-in-law are bad people. They can be difficult at times, but we love them both. So both me and my wife have agreed to continue babysitting Tammy on occasion. But if history repeats itself, I won't hesitate to nip this in the bud. The main piece of advice I'm following from your comments is to, while babysitting, treat everyone the same and hold everyone to the same standards as my own kids. It's what I did with the pizza fiasco, and I continue to do it in the future. On a lighter note, we live in Latin America, and the overwhelming surprise at some details I shared in my post, including military time and ketchup on pizza. Yes, I know it's awful, but it's popular with some kids around here. It was definitely interesting. Someone called OP out. They said that you're saying sister-in-law isn't a great person just because she swears. OP says, I say sister-in-law isn't a great person because she's selfish, abrasive, and loud. I have no problem with her swearing that much. Again, my wife does too, but I do have a problem with doing so in an impolite or rude manner. Don't call the food shit and still expect to have it. And OP about the ketchup again, saying, my daughter's godmother is Italian. Pretty sure she wants to murder me whenever she sees my kid putting ketchup on pizza. And I gotta make a confession to you guys as well. I've done that once as well. I put ketchup on a pizza. It was only because I went to the local shop and I was so hungry and I bought like the quad cheese pizza and it was just too much cheese, man. I couldn't get it down. Needed some ketchup with it. Wasn't too bad, to be fair. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? What do you think about ketchup on pizza? Oh dear. Hide from the comments. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from a deleted user from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit and says, Am I the arsehole for telling my wife that I would choose my mum over the birth of our baby? Now, before we do get into this story, I do want to give you a couple of warnings in case you do want to skip the story. It does contain of death of a parent, cancer, emotional abuse and manipulation as well. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. And it starts off. So this is a throwaway account. I will check some of these comments, but not all. So to get started, I am 36 male. My wife is 33 female. We're expecting our first child soon. My mother, who is 70, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and has been hospitalized since it is so bad doctors say she will not survive since treatments aren't working well on her. My dad died when I was young, and my mum took care of me while working 2 jobs so that I could have a good life. I feel I owe everything to my mother. I bought her a house and whatever she needed that she could live her older years well since we had to struggle so much. When I got home from work and visiting my mum, my wife and I were talking, and she asked if you got a call that I was in labor or your mum was going to die, who would you pick? I told her I would pick my mum. She asked why, and I told her that I wanted to be there to say goodbye to my mum since I would never see her again, and so she would have somebody there in her final moments. She got mad and said, what about her and our baby? I told her I would try to be there as fast as I could after my mum, but that most likely wouldn't happen. So I told her not to worry about it. She was still mad and told me to get out of the house. I left and now I'm at my mum's house. So Reddit, am I the arsehole? Edit to everyone saying that I would be leaving her alone. No, I wouldn't. She'd have her mum there. She has said she wanted her mum there with her. Yes, I was right for leaving my house. It was either I leave or she go. I was not about to put my pregnant wife out of our house. Yes, I have been there for her. I've taken off work to comfort her and help her in any way she needs during this pregnancy. Edit 2. I keep getting the same question about Why did I leave my house, even though I may own the house? It was late, and I didn't want my pregnant wife out late at night, but she told me to leave, so I knew it was either me or her. 2. My mother is in the hospital and she is not at her house. 3. I thought a lot about what a lot of you said about how I should put her first, but she doesn't put me first at all. She chooses her sisters over me all the time. 4th, I do not make her feel second. I've put my wife first, especially in emergencies, and I've tried my best to comfort her. I've gone home and now I'm thinking I don't need to apologize. I really don't know. Thanks to everyone who's commented. And there was a couple of relevant comments which OP responds to. So PaceNo4108 says, you got kicked out of your house for getting a hypothetical question wrong. On face value, you're not the arsehole, but what is likely happening is your wife isn't feeling the support and love she really wants and needs right now. Is she a super needy, controlling woman? Or simply feeling a tad neglected? Hormonal? I think you need to consider why she asked the question and address that. That's the problem. A hypothetical question and hurt reaction is simply how it plays out. Get out of your mum's house and go fix this. Leaving her home alone isn't going to help. Sleep out in front if you need to. Bring lots of apologies too. You were not kicked out for a bad answer here. There is a feeling of loss and something that is missing that your wife isn't feeling and needs to as soon as possible. Figure that out and go give it to her, and give her another version of it every day for the rest of your life. Don't find out what part of love your wife doesn't think she has. Don't become a you're the arsehole and sleep at mum's house. Opie says no, she's not a needy, controlling woman. I never thought about that, but I did plan to go home and apologize today and ask her some questions about it. Kyrie says info. Have you missed important appointments or not helping out around your house as much, making your wife feel like she is alone? For her to ask questions like that. Opie says no. I've been to all but one, and that's because she forgot to tell me about it. When I came home, I washed the dishes from dinner and cleaned the floor. Usually she prefers to cook. I've taken off a lot of days to help and comfort her through this, so maybe I could do more. I don't know what else to do, but I will ask though. Weak Possessions 7650 is a hard choice, but I'd say not the arsehole. As long as your wife does actually have another plan for getting to the hospital and someone to support her. If not, the situation is a little iffy. Chances of both happening at the same time are quite unlikely though, so here's hoping you don't actually have to choose. OP says yes, she does have support. Her mum and sisters live close to us, about 5 minutes away. They would be able to drive her. Like this comment said, to me it felt like there was always something in the background for that question to pop up in the first place. You know, do I agree that asking that question was a good idea? Absolutely not. It's hypothetical and one that you're not likely to like the answer to, but it does feel like it comes from some sort of resentment. But OP came in with their first update and says, if you haven't read the story, here it is, and shares the link, and then says, hello again, people have read it. Some of you asked for an update, so here it is. I went back home yesterday afternoon. She wasn't there, and I assumed she was at her mum's house. She came back in the evening and we had to talk about what happened. She did apologize for asking the question, and that when she thought about it, she understood my answer because she would do the same. I asked her why she asked, and she said she didn't know and thought I was going to pick her since I normally do. I kinda just said okay and moved on. I did tell her I want marriage counseling after or even before the baby's born. She asked why, and I told her how I felt, and she denied it, so I had to give her proof. Then she started crying and got mad and told me to sleep in the guest room instead of kicking me out. So I guess I got a win there. Anyways, she told me that she no longer wanted me in the delivery, which I was fine with. I understand to an extent where it's coming from. I will go into therapy, which was suggested, and I think I do need. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for the advice. You all gave me some good and bad advice, and sorry if my comments came off as mean. I'm not really a friendly person till you know me, especially if you're accusing me of something. Winterworld says on the back of that one, you would actually be fine with not being there to see the birth of your child. Really? Opie says no, but it's her choice. I can't make her let me in there. Ika says, you could have told her it's a priority for you, that you're sorry too, that you guys were talking hypothetical and the chances of your mum dying on your child's birthday are very slim. You could try to make her see it's important to you. Just accepting it would make me feel like you just don't care. Also, you could have been more understanding, taking accountability and apologize to her before you brought in marriage counseling. Opie says, I did tell her that she is a priority, and she did see it's important to me because she would do the same, and we all did that. Why do you want me to argue with a pregnant woman? Sad Bunny says, please tell me you're in therapy. Please. I've made an appointment with one. But Opie comes in with another update and says, hello people, this will probably be my last and final update. I read a lot of your comments and I did apologize. Not for bringing up marriage counseling, but for the timing I brought it up and that I did show her proof. She did forgive me and told me I was still going to be at the birth of our child. I said to her that it was okay and that I accepted it and I wasn't going to fight her on her choice. I did tell her that I think she and I both need some space before the baby comes, to which she agreed. I told her I would leave and that she could have the house, and that if she needed anything to call or text me. No, I'm not at my mother's house. I'm at a friend's house. He doesn't live there anymore, but he usually rents it out. To all of you asking why don't you kick her out, it's because I'm the only person who makes money in the house, and I know especially now if I kick her out, it would be called financial, emotionally manipulation, or even abuse. So it's better a lot of times if I leave. Yes, I do plan to go back home when the baby is born, and to someone who asked, I do plan to take paternity leave. No, she does not know where I'm at. She didn't ask, so I didn't tell. Mainly because her family will be banging on my door. The people who I know are going to ask, why aren't you fighting harder to be in the delivery room? I've learned that some things I cannot control. One thing is, people, if she doesn't want me there, I won't be. My main example is if I'd gotten someone pregnant in my 20s and said get an abortion just because it's my baby as well doesn't mean I can control what she does. So it's her body and her choice. Lastly, to people who are saying they need more details, I'm not used to just randomly talking about myself. It's been that way since I was a child. I've gotten better since I was a kid, but it's a struggle, so if you have a question, give me a specific question because I answer what you ask, not the above. And about the divorce thing, I do not care if she divorces me. I love her, but I cannot control how she feels, so personally I won't beg her not to. I will suggest that we get help, but if she doesn't want to, then that's fine. I'm secure. What I mean by that is she will get nothing in the divorce. Does she know that? I don't know. I will try my best to answer the questions in the comments. And we do have a final update in a moment, which comes after the baby is born, but there was a couple of relevant questions on this one. So one, awareness says not the arsehole, but such a dramatic turn of events from a hypothetical question. Sweet Rose replies to that saying really escalated quickly. Like now I don't even think he's going to have a wife as an emotional support when his mum dies. I hope he has a support system in place because he's going to need it. Opie says, well, that's why I'm going to therapy because I don't want to lean on my wife too much after she has the baby. 3x3 animal style please says, can I ask, why is your last line of the post certainty she would get nothing in the divorce? Can you elaborate on that a bit? Opie says, we have a prenup. Anything that was purchased before the marriage would be mine since even before we got married, she was stay at home. So I purchased the house and everything before we got married, so it would be mine. Toffee Swirl says, do you have autism? Opie says ADHD, not autism. Spoonbill says, I'm secure. What I mean by that is she'll get nothing in the divorce. Does she know that? I don't know. Then says, do you hate this woman, your wife, who's carrying your children? She doesn't work. She'd be doing primary childcare presumably. How is she going to live? She's going to be a single mother just like your mum. Is that what you want for her and your kids? I do not understand you at all. Why are you throwing everything away because a first-time pregnant woman feels insecure? Opie says, I don't plan on getting a divorce is one. No, I don't hate her. She will still have to get a job and I will probably end up paying child support. I don't plan on getting a divorce if she wants one. That's on her. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just giving her space and not making her more stressed. OK Team says, if she doesn't want me in there, I won't be. And she will get nothing in the divorce statements both bother me. It sounds like she may want you to show that you really want to be there with her and with her in general. Maybe try a little harder to make that known. Your attitude makes it seem like you just don't care. Also, why would you want her to get nothing in the divorce? She is the mother of your child. Opie says that was decided before we got married. When we got engaged, she decided to be a house fiancé, then housewife. So for me, I wanted to protect myself if she ever checked. I've heard too many stories. My attitude around her, I try to show I care, but maybe she doesn't see it that way. I don't know how she sees it. Yes, I know she is the mother of my child. So OP's final update, and it is the last one, says, "Hello people, I have good and bad news." So I'll start with the good news. My wife had the baby on January 26th. It's a girl, and I love her so much. I wanted to name her after my mother, but we found out a compromise, and her middle name is my mother's name. For the questions I'm going to get about was I in the delivery room, I was not. I did ask, but I got a no, and she said she already told her sister, and that she couldn't hurt my feelings, which is okay. By then I had stopped caring a lot. The bad news is, my mother died. She died a week before my baby was born. A decent bit of her friends came to the funeral, and if you go back up a sentence, I said I had stopped caring a lot since she didn't come to the funeral. She made stupid excuses, and I just said forget it. It was nice though. I'm mad that she wasn't there when I needed her. So I haven't been talking to her much, so I won't yell at her. We talk about the baby and her, and other than that, we don't talk. I'll bring up marriage counseling in a few weeks, but for now, I'm going to enjoy my baby and love her. Now, I'm not sure if marriage counseling can ever turn around something like this, because it certainly doesn't feel that way. To me, it feels like OP's checked out of this relationship by the end of it. And I've got to be honest, I think at this point, divorce is probably the best way forward for all of them. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from the top of the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Original Good 2218. Doesn't have an update as yet, but says, "Am I the arsehole for reducing my parents' allowance by whatever amount they share with my siblings? My parents live in a less developed country than I do. My siblings and I all live in North America or Europe. When I got my new job, I did my budgets and saw that I could send home roughly $1,300 a month without it affecting my personal comfort. I would still be able to save for my future, and my mum and dad could retire. So when I was home, I set up a joint account for us. That way I could see if they needed more and make sure they were not getting scammed or anything. After about a year and a half, I started noticing that there was a $200 transfer every month, and they said he was having difficulties with his budget, so they're helping him out. My brother doesn't need help. He's a scholarship student. He actually receives a stipend from my home government to study abroad. What he wants is money to party. So I reduced the amount I give them by $200. Obviously they do not need it if they can afford to give it away every month. My mum called me when she noticed and was yelling at me for being a crappy daughter and sister. I asked her to tell me exactly how much money they contributed to my party fund when I was away for school. Just so you know, the answer is $0. They also tried to talk me out of attending university in Canada. I'm not sure how common the idea of filial piety is in other cultures, but it's a big deal in mine. She went off about it. I told her that they didn't need the money and had better ways to spend $200 than gift it to my brother so he could get drunk with his friends more. She said that I'm treating them like children by restricting how they spend their money. I replied that I was not going to subsidize my brother through them, and that from now on the money they got from me would be $1,100, and that if they sent him money again, I would know and reduce their money by that amount going forward. My brother called me to bitch about me about cutting off his money from our parents. I said that I hadn't. He was welcome to tell our parents to go back to back-breaking jobs at their age to pay for his partying in London. Then they would have money to live off of and their wages to pay for his drinking. My boyfriend is on my side, as many of my friends. Most of my family and people from my culture think I am being an arsehole. However, for the last 2 months, my parents have only been spending on themselves. Now, obviously, I don't come from a culture where there's this sort of expectance to care for your parents in their older age, but I certainly would if they were struggling, don't get me wrong. But the absolute entitlement of that sort of attitude makes me, it's just shit. I think it's disgusting when you're caring for someone in the way you are, showing the love that you do, the consideration that you do, looking out for them, not wanting them to be scammed and all this kind of thing. Caring for them in a way that your brother certainly isn't, and then you get called a crappy daughter and sister. And a line that really did make me chuckle to myself is when she said I'm treating them like children by restricting how they spend their money. I would have said, do you want to say that back to yourself? Stupid butts come straight in and says, $1,300 a month? Girl, I'll adopt you. Whilst Wild says, not the arsehole, and since your parents probably don't tell you often enough, I'll say it for them. You're an amazingly thoughtful, loving and caring child to your parents. You send them upwards of $1,000 every month just so they can retire and not have to work. That's amazing. You're also reducing the amount you give them as a preventative measure to make sure they don't get taken advantage of by a spoiled son. If they give $200 now without consequences, it would eventually increase to $300, then $400, then $500, and so on and so forth. You set a boundary that will help your parents to keep their money for themselves so they can continue to remain retired and not spread themselves too thin. Extinct Diplodocus says, not the arsehole, if you wanted to give your brother $200 a month, you could send it direct. You don't have to give your parents money to make an end run so that they're giving your brother that $200. I agree with your logic that they're sending $200 a month to brother. That's money they don't actually need from you. The total effect is that you stop giving brother $200 a month. Glum Hamster says, not the arsehole. They don't want to be treated like children but will gladly take a monthly allowance from you. An allowance they wouldn't have if you had listened to them and accepted their lack of support. I doubt your brother will send them money when he gets a job, so they have a choice to make. Keep giving him money they claim to need or use the money so they can have an easier retirement. VNXR replies to that saying, right, I have a friend who ended up being a sole supporter of the entire family back in their home country. The friend is far behind the poverty line by the standards of the country he immigrated to. Their brother who's doing okay financially isn't contributing. And when the friend said they can't support the family anymore, they berated and insulted them for hours and blamed the parent being sick on them. And one more comment from Alpine Lad 1965 who says, you are way more generous than I could or would ever be. You went to university and bettered yourself, got a good paying job because you went against their wishes and studied in Canada. Now you sent them money, and they think your brother deserves it because he is a man. Nah, that is 18th century stuff right there. Personally, I would not have given them anything because they didn't even want you to study. In that case, you never would have had the money to give them anyway. They should be happy if you give them $500 a month. Now, I can't comment on the culture and the expectance and stuff like that, but I just find it incredibly sad that you think and you talk to your daughter this way. When they're supporting your way of life, they're doing incredible things with their own life, living an independent, doing things all by themselves, looking after themselves, but still having the consideration, the care and love to care for you at the same time, and then you treat them that way. I find that just baffling, honestly. Much love to you, OP, because you are an amazing person. If you do hear it, please never forget that. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you have a different take on the matter. What would you suggest OP do? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from Throwaway Andrew the Cat and says, my girlfriend, 28 female, wants to break up because I, 30 male, bought the wrong chocolate. I know this sounds crazy, but hear me out. My girlfriend and I have been together for almost 3 years now. Everything is going great and she's the love of my life. But today, something weird happened. I told her I'm going to go to the grocery store to buy some stuff for the next few days. I asked her to send me a list on Messenger. We always do this so I don't forget anything important. I asked her multiple times if she needed anything to make sure we had everything at home. I didn't have to go grocery shopping again tomorrow. She said she wanted chocolates. Fine. What flavor should I bring? Any flavor is fine. You know what I don't like, so just don't bring that. She sounded annoyed, which confused me, but I thought she was just in a bad mood. Went to the store, got all the stuff on the list, picked up some chocolates and then headed home. When I got home, she asked where the chocolate was, and when I gave it to her, she exploded at me. I don't like caramel. How could you get such a simple thing wrong? Why did you ask if you didn't care about the answer? You're driving me crazy and I don't want to be with you anymore. I was flabbergasted. I tried to calm her down and have a conversation, but she stormed out and slammed the door. I want to give her space, but wow, what just happened? I sometimes got her chocolates with caramel and I don't remember saying she doesn't like them. Can someone please explain what I did wrong? How should I approach her about this? Should I just let her be upset or go and talk to her? Edit. Let me answer a few things here so it's easier to find. I asked her to write a list because she spends more time at home than I do, so I assume she knows better what we need for the house. Some days I work 12-hour shifts and can't remember everything we need. I don't remember her explicitly saying that she hates caramel, but I will keep it in mind for next time. I didn't buy her a chocolate that she hates on purpose. I'm not a passive-aggressive person. I do chores around the house, but because she's working from home most days, she does more of the chores as well. I have to travel to work every day, so we made an agreement about the chores and she was okay with it. Yes, sometimes I forget things, but it's nothing malicious. I don't think that makes me a horrible boyfriend. I also always ask her if she wants me to get her anything. What would she like to eat, if she needs anything at all? I care about her a lot. Yes, she's on her period right now. Edit 2, because I see a lot of assumptions in the comments. She doesn't do all the housework alone. I do 40% of the chores and she does 60%. I work 10-hour shifts 6 days a week while she works 5-hour shifts 4 days a week. We agreed to split the chores this way and it works for us. I mentioned her period because people asked about it in the comments. Nobody blamed anything on her period. It was just an answer to some questions. She experiences strong PMS symptoms during most of her periods and is waiting to see a specialist about it. Unfortunately, it takes a few months to get an appointment with them. I don't remember her saying she hates caramel. She eats Snicker bars with caramel in it, so I thought she'd be okay with it. Lol. I know her favorite flowers, perfume, McDonald's order, and how to make her favorite smoothies, etc. But running a business can be stressful, and I can't remember everything, so I do forget small things sometimes. She also prefers to do things her own way, so I ask her multiple times about certain things to make sure she is happy. I feel like a lot of people replying to this post are projecting past bad experiences or annoyances onto our relationship. I mean, of course, you can't fit a whole relationship history into one Reddit post, and strangers won't know our dynamics. But I'm not sure where all this frustration and hostility is coming from. I might have come to the wrong place for advice. Thank you for the level-headed responses. I'll wait for her to calm down and come to me. Hopefully we can talk everything through. Now, of course, absolutely you need to discuss this because my brain said instantly to me when I read that title that this isn't about the chocolates. This is about something else. And, without discussion, without communication, you're just not going to find out what that is. But add acrobatic5971 and says, okay, very clearly this isn't about the chocolates. I would bet good money that this is about several things. She feels like you don't care, aren't attentive, and don't particularly make much effort. She doesn't feel listened to, and after 3 years together, dude, you really should know that she doesn't like caramel. She feels like she has to explain everything to you, like you're 5 and you don't listen or do anything independently. The fact that she couldn't even rely on you to just buy the correct chocolate without having to micromanage you over it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Bunny Bunny 690 says this is a tipping point. It's not about the chocolate itself, it's what the fact you couldn't even get the right chocolate represents. You always ask for a proper list. My husband does this and drives me bloody crazy. Meant to know exactly what we need, but he doesn't. Why doesn't he have eyes too? Does his brain remember what we need, or a simple list mentioned only 5 minutes prior? Also 3 years and you don't remember she doesn't like caramel. She's clearly been putting up and up with you, getting her things she doesn't like. It's not the chocolate. It's the fact that you can't apply your own brain to tasks and need every tiny thing explaining. And she feels you pay her likes and wants no attention, thus the caramel time and time again. And a final comment from What the Fuck Immortal who says, as some other people said, the chocolate was just the tipping point. Mine was socks. I broke up with my ex because of the socks he bought me. He never put any effort into what I like, into what I find interesting, into what I'm into. He bought me whatever he saw, without effort or thought. He never listened to me. I only wear black or white socks, never coloured. He bought me red socks with a Pringles logo for my 18th birthday. I don't eat Pringles. I don't wear coloured socks. We had been together for a year at that point. Also, I'd got the exact same pair from Secret Santa at my school and I complained about them on the phone to my boyfriend. But he didn't even pay attention to what I was saying, I guess. It was my tipping point. It showed me he was never going to change. He was never going to care about me enough to even listen to me talk, let alone pay attention and remember what exactly I say. There were also other issues in that relationship. I'm glad I got out of it. Now I've been with my current boyfriend for 4 years, and it's enough for me to mention something I like once, and he remembers and surprises me for special occasions. Best feeling ever. Not the Pringles socks. I don't know why that made me chuckle. I'd love a pair of Pringles socks, to be fair. But OP did come in with her update and says, I wasn't going to do an update post, but some people messaged me about it, so here it is. I waited for my girlfriend to calm down and come to me. After a few hours she did. She was crying and really apologetic. We talked about what happened. She said her PMS made her really upset and her hormones were acting up more than usual this month, making her more irritable. I told her I understood but needed some space to think, so I slept in a guest room. I understand that she can't control her PMS symptoms, but I didn't grow up in a house where slamming doors and screaming at each other was a normal thing to do when someone is frustrated. Also, her saying that she wants to break up shouldn't be a heat of the moment thing. Even though most of the comments were attacking me and making all kind of assumptions, it also made me think about the dynamics of my relationship and the burden I take on myself. I feel like I'm doing way more in the relationship than my girlfriend. I'm carrying most of the weight on my own shoulders. I thought it was normal because I really love her and want her to be happy. But now that people have pointed out the whole mental load thing and how responsibility should be shared, I'm starting to think I might have taken on too much. In a way, this might be the reason why she thinks she can treat me the way she did yesterday. Someone told me in the DMs that there's a fine line between being kind and being a pushover, and I sure as hell don't want to be taken advantage of because of my kindness. I'll talk to her today and see if we can figure out a way to share the responsibilities more evenly at home and in our relationship. I'll also have to lay down more boundaries, which will be hard, but I have to do it. Thanks again for the level-headed comments and DMs. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story from the Am I Wrong subreddit from Kitty Blues 101 and says, and quickly jumping in before we do get into the story, just in case you do want to skip it, timestamp's always down in the description and along the timeline below. But this story does talk about an eating disorder as well. And it's titled, Am I, female 17, wrong for breaking up with my boyfriend, male 19, because he doesn't want me to gain weight? Background, we started dating a few years ago when I was severely underweight, even for my shortness. I'm 4'11", and at the time I was 71 pounds and in and out of the hospital. He at the time wanted me to gain weight and recover from my eating disorder. When I got to 90 pounds, he told me it was the perfect weight for me, but my doctor said I should gain more. I listened to my boyfriend more and then relapsed. Now I'm in recovery again and I'm 95 pounds, wanting to be 100 pounds. Today I told him I'm going to try and gain 5 more pounds and he said, well, whatever you want I guess. Which is what he says when he gets angry. And I said, sorry, do you not want me to? And he shrugged and started to explain that he didn't want me to get fat and that my figure is perfect right now. Then I told him I wouldn't be fat and I just want to be healthy and not sick anymore. He then said, the whole thing is being thin, right? That's what you want. Triple digits isn't thin. And we just started arguing. I told him if he was going to be a jerk, I don't want to be with him. Then he laughed and said, try finding someone who will love you like I did. I'm not a jerk, but just a bitch. And he pushed me and left. We were together for 3 years. He was my first boyfriend. Now I feel really bad for ending it just because of that. I understand why he wouldn't want me to gain weight, but he was being kind of mean. I want to apologize, but I don't know if I was in the wrong. What do you guys think? Absolutely do not apologize to that guy. Ditch him. He is absolutely toxic and harmful and fucking just an awful person. Oh, he's got me riled right up. But Samabat says, A, no man should ever put his hands on you. Right now it's a push, but that can very quickly escalate. That alone is enough reason to never speak to him again. B, your partner should want you to be healthy, full stop. Trying to shame you for wanting to get to a healthy weight is insane and scary. You deserve someone who will support your healing, not try to keep you sick. C, anytime a partner tells you, no one will love you like I do, that is a good thing. That's not healthy love. You don't want that kind of love, and I hope you never have the misfortune of dealing with it again. I wish you so much luck on your healing journey, girl. You're doing so great already. Ditch the jerk and take some time to really focus on yourself and the wonderful life you are building. I'm proud of you. I'm rooting for you. Absolutely rooting for OP. So OP did come back in to update the post and says, first I want to say thank you for all your kind words and giving me advice and such. I really appreciate it. A lot has happened in the past 16 hours and I thought I'd give you guys some updates. He came to my house this morning at like 4 AM, which isn't uncommon. He always does that. I asked him to since when it's my parents are usually both asleep. He said that texting or calling wouldn't be right in this situation and he started to apologize and cry about how he didn't mean it. He shouldn't have shoved me and that I can gain however much I want. Usually I would cry too and forgive him, but I was honestly so over it and tired. Yesterday sucked for so many reasons and I spent all night reading those comments you guys left and I don't know. It was like I was pulled into reality for a minute. I told him to go home. I didn't say anything else. I didn't know what else to say. He tried to grab me, but I didn't let him. I just closed the door and let him sit in it. I still feel bad about it though. Even though I realize now those 3 years were bad, and he's not a good person. I still love him a lot, and I just want to turn all these bad feelings off and go back to all our good moments. He was so good to me so often, and I wasn't used to it. What I was used to was being mistreated, and it's like I didn't see what it was for what it was. But seeing he's abusive and people breaking it down for me 100 times and reading up on what abuse is really was a slap in the face I needed. I feel like I knew in the back of my mind it was wrong and how he treated me, but it was like I couldn't break out of all of the excuses and cover-ups he's made and I've made for him. His love wasn't really love, it was just control. He's not a good person. He's just like my shitty dad. I wasn't anything to him but something to control. I've never had power over my own life. I've tried to people please since I was born. I've been taught and told what I want isn't up to me, and who I am isn't up to me. But all that's not true. It is up to me. I want to say I'll never talk to him again and that I don't care about him at all. But I was in love with him for 3 years and I still love him. I still want to be held by him and told he loves me, even if it's all lies because that's what I'm used to. I want to remain strong and I'm trying to. I don't want to go back. Going to talk to my therapist about this and go from there. Again, thank you for all your encouragement and kindness. I'll be continuing my journey to a long and successful recovery. I have all of you to thank for helping me out. Sorry for rambling. I tried to say everything I thought in the moment. Thank you again. And that is one of the things that I do love reading about Reddit is when people come to advice, which, you know, for all of us sat here, it might be obvious to us that OP should be breaking up with that person, but for them and what they've been through and everything that's been normalized for them, it's a tough decision. And I'm glad that they're making the huge steps from stepping away from that person because they are not healthy for them in the slightest. But Nonchalant Calypso says to OP, yes, I remember reading your original post and being shocked. Anorexia is not something to fuck about with, and you've put so much work into getting better. I'm genuinely so happy for you. If you feel yourself slipping back towards him, go and read those comments again. Well done and good luck. Which OP says, yeah, I was dying at one point. When I was in and out of the hospital and I realized it's not worth dying to be thin, which in reality was skeletal. Then when I relapsed and he stopped supporting me, I was convinced if I gained, I'd lose him. But after all this, I realized his desire and attraction isn't worth dying for. Nothing really is worth dying for. But I want you to know, and anyone who reads this, I will read the comments if I doubt, and I will actively work with my therapist to never go back. I can't go back to it when I'm finally free. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's have another story from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Kind Concert 4788. And says, am I the arsehole for spending money my grandparents gave me instead of saving it towards my stepbrother's treatment fund? My mum got married to Alan 2 years ago. I, 15 female, was 13 at the time, and Alan's 2 kids were Emma, 9 female, and Noah, 3 male. Noah was diagnosed with cancer last year, and my mum and her husband were told there's some kind of different treatment he could get in another country if they could raise the money. It would be better for Noah than the treatments available in the US. My mum and Alan could not afford it, so they have been sending him to treatment here and saving for Noah's treatment. They made a lot of cutbacks and asked that Emma and I give over any money we get so they can afford this. They have about 70% or something now, and that has come from cutting out a lot. We eat very basic meals. They cancelled our internet, and we didn't do anything for our birthdays or Christmas since the savings started. Any money that comes into the house goes on essentials or the treatment fund. My dad died 9 years ago, and my paternal family stayed part of my life. They know what has been going on, and they've been buying me little treats and taking me out to eat when they can. They also give me money every couple of weeks so I can have something if I ever need anything. I've been hiding that money because I know I would be told to give it up. I carry it everywhere because Emma is the type to snoop and tell her dad. She has asked me before why I don't babysit to help make more money for her brother. She would work if she could, but she's only 11. I spent some of the money from my grandparents over the weekend. I got my hair cut and I bought my best friend a gift for her birthday. I also got some food and spent some time at my dad's grave. My mum noticed my haircut and asked where the money came from, and she realised I was lying when I said that I'd been with my grandparents and they took me because I forgot they were out of town. So I told her they gave me some money to get some stuff done. She told me a haircut was not a need, and how selfish could I be? Alan heard her scolding me, and he jumped in and asked what the hell was wrong with me. He told me this family has to pull together for Noah, and I'm acting like I don't care whether Noah gets his treatment or not. Of course, by the end of the day, Emma heard and freaked out. But then my mum ran into my best friend's mum a couple of days ago, and she told mum my gift to my best friend was so sweet and thoughtful. I was sat down and yelled at for spending the money on not just me, but on others. Alan asked me how I could give the money for a gift that means nothing when it could have gone to save my brother's life. I yelled back that it's not my job to pay for Noah's treatment and I'm already sacrificing, but I refused to go all out the way they want me to. I told them the money came from my family who was nothing to them, and they need to let it go. Alan called me a selfish little bitch, and he told me that I should be ashamed of my repulsive behavior. Now Emma keeps telling me I'm a bad person. Am I the arsehole? Now, I sort of wonder, do your grandparents know the full story of everything that's going on in this situation? It sounds like they know about the struggle within the household and money, but do they know that you're being sat down and being told that you're selfish and you should be ashamed and repulsive and a bitch and all this kind of stuff? And I'm pretty sure they would have something to say if you raised that with them, and I think that's what you need to do in this situation. But Cole says, not the arsehole, go live with your grandparents if you can. Pitch it as a way to help them save money for Noah, and don't ever go back. Get being worried about your kid, but to starve the other kid having a youth just to send him somewhere else. But they not realize that this is just to send him there, not to mention the cost of the stay. Opie says they think because Emma is happy to do it, I should be too, especially being older. But Noah is Emma's brother, and that is always going to make it different. I don't know if they will go for me living with my grandparents, but I might try. Thanks. Next commenter says, not the arsehole, this is not your responsibility. You haven't even been in Noah's life very long. I would definitely check with your grandparents and see if you could live with them. If your stepfather is calling you a selfish bitch for getting a haircut, then you should leave if you can. That's not okay. You're 15. Opie says, I haven't, and that's something I wouldn't say out loud because it would make life even more hell on earth. I've known Alan, Noah, and Emma for a little over 2.5 years. I know they think I'm some horrible monster for not being determined like Emma is, but Noah is her brother. He's my stepbrother, and not a stepbrother I consider just a brother. I don't consider Emma just a sister either, or Alan my dad, or even my parent really. I'm not protesting all the changes made to our lifestyle, but I will take my grandparents up on making sure I still get nice food sometimes and get my hair cut and other things of that nature. Emma would give it all for her brother, and I get that. I'm going to try and leave if I can do so easily. I'm going to talk to my grandparents tomorrow and see what happens from there. And the comments pretty much just continued down that path of trying to get themselves in that situation if they can, telling a responsible adult. But what do you guys make of this situation? What would you advise to the OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from a throwaway account and is titled, I, 23 male, broke up with my girlfriend, 21 female, of 3 years because she wanted to remain a virgin. Now she wants to get back together but told me she had sex with someone else when we were broken up. How should I proceed? I, 23 male, met my ex, 21 female, 3 years ago. We lived on campus at uni in different halls of residence. After a few months, we got together and for the most part had a very happy relationship. There was always one issue though. My ex grew up in a very religious home. Her father is a pastor. She has been open with her family that she does not share their faith. They weren't happy about it but accepted that she has to make her own choices on that. Nevertheless, I think some of that religious upbringing was still in her mind. I grew up in a different religion but was never very serious about it and am no longer religious. Our relationship was pretty normal except that she told me very early that she was a virgin and wanted to stay that way until she was married. It wasn't for religious reasons. As I mentioned, she isn't religious, but she was very focused on not disappointing her dad. We did other sexual things, just not intercourse. I never had much luck with girls growing up, and going into the relationship, I was a virgin. And I still am. At least if you classify being a virgin as never had intercourse. Anyway, I was becoming more resentful of the fact that everyone I know was having normal sexual relationships and we weren't. I couldn't understand why she didn't want to have a full sexual relationship. Though of course I never pressured her about it. I felt that while I was at uni and pretty broke, getting married was something for the future. Last year I was in my last year of uni and she was working in her first professional job. Her degree was shorter than mine, so she finished uni first despite being younger than me. She was still talking a lot about all these successful guys she met at work, which did make me feel lesser as I was still a broke uni student. Coupled with her not wanting a full sexual relationship, it did make me feel more resentful. We had some arguments about it and after a while I felt I should end the relationship as we wanted different things and our lives were on different paths. It was awful. He was crying a lot and I felt terrible afterwards. Anyway, it's been nearly 6 months since we broke up. We haven't been in touch at all for almost all that time. I have not been involved with anyone else in that time, as I was 100% focused on finishing my degree. I finally finished uni and I'm about to start my first professional job. She recently got in touch again and asked to meet up. I was hesitant but decided we had so much good history that I should hear her out. She told me she's been missing me terribly these past 6 months, as she thinks she wants to get back together and is open to having a sexual relationship now. I asked her, why now? What changed? And she looked uncomfortable. After a little prying, she said she had a short-term fling with one of the older guys at work while we were broken up, which of course was fine as she wasn't my girlfriend anymore. Anyway, she said he persisted with her until she started having sex with him. She ended it with him recently. She was clear that it was consensual, but that the guy was very persistent with pursuing sex with her. I was gutted. I couldn't understand why she'd make me wait all those years, but was fine doing it with some new guy she'd only been seeing a short time. I asked if the reason she was open to having a sexual relationship now was because she wasn't a virgin anymore. She said yes. I asked her to give me some space to process all this. I'm conflicted and would love some advice on this. I've missed her a lot and still have strong feelings for her, but at the same time it feels like I was strung along for years. It's hard to put my finger on why I don't want to take her back. Everything logically makes sense for us to get back together. I'd even get to finally have a sexual relationship with her. I feel awful about this whole thing and don't want to ignore those feelings. And there was many comments on the back of this one just saying, move on, you're not compatible, other people saying you got strung along for long enough, move on, etc. But Abstract Teapot says it makes sense. She had a weird thing about sex due to religious upbringing. You broke up. In the back of her head, it's because she wasn't ready to have sex. The next relationship, the guy was pushy, and she realized if she didn't want a repeat of what happened, she'd have to give in and have sex. They broke up. She wants to see if the fact that she can have sex changes things now. You don't have to accept it, and you shouldn't if you feel resentful or like you're a backup option, because it wouldn't be fair to either of you. I think you need to figure out if you're happy closing this chapter to move on. When you close it, do it properly. Opie added their own comment below the post and said some of the comments are being very harsh on my ex, and I guess that's not surprising. You don't know her. She's not some evil, manipulative villain. At all. I would never have been with anyone like that. She's still the funny, smart, charming, beautiful girl I always knew. Any guy would be lucky to have her. I would be too. If I could handle the baggage here, but I'm thinking I probably can't, and a clean break is the way to go. Though she may regret the relationship with the other man, it's not my business, as she was a single woman and we were broken up. I wasn't ever expecting to hear from her again, really. This whole situation is very surprising to me. I'm feeling hurt because I guess this is a solid blow to my ego. I feel like the lesser man here. I can own that, and that's something for me to work on. Ultimately, I have some hang-ups about sex from this relationship that I need to deal with. A few people have suggested I could benefit from therapy. I'm going to look into that. I think I need help to process all these emotions on the situation. And Jinboy32 asked Opie a question. They said, I would ask her why she was willing to sleep with a guy after such a short relationship, but after 3 years, she was not willing to sleep with you. Opie says, I think this is the right question, because I don't know why. She didn't say. All she said was that the guy was persistent. I'm torn about whether to simply text her that I don't want to rekindle things and leave it all in the past, or whether I should ask more questions about what happened, because this hurts. I don't know if I'm ready to get details of a relationship with the other guy. Sometimes I just feel like I'm stunted in some way. A few comments have said I'm immature, and they're probably right. I know I'm the one who ended the relationship and that she's entitled to do what she wants with anyone else. Still doesn't make it hurt any less, and maybe it's just best to say goodbye and leave all this in the past. So Opie comes in with an update and says, this is an update to my last post. Hello again, and I appreciate the people taking time to comment on my last post. The response was a lot, more than I expected, with over 2,000 comments. I'm amazed so many people wanted to comment about my situation. Thank you. Warning, this is a long post. I've kept the daily journal since I was 16. A lot of what follows is dumps from my journal. Yes, I know I'm not concise. I'm going to refer to my ex as Ellie, not her real name. I'd like to write a bit about the comments because so many people took the time to provide their thoughts, and I appreciate that. The majority of the comments were some variation of move on, a clean break, a strong recommendation with a lot to recommend it. A minority said, give her a chance and see how it goes. Plenty calling me an asshole for ending it because I wanted sex in our relationship, or for being obsessed with her virginity. That's I dumped her because she wouldn't put out. And quite a few saying my breakup with her made her feel like sex is necessary to keep a guy, and that it drove her heartbroken into the next guy's bed. There were a few she's pregnant comments. Not that I know of. It's not impossible, but if that happens, it won't be anything to do with me. The dude saying I should fuck her and leave her, or worse. Seriously, some of you guys need a hug, or a psychologist. No, I would never use her like that, no matter our past. Ellie and I were a loving couple for years. That counts for something, even after we broke up. Feeling hurt doesn't justify using her, or anyone else for that matter. As for the comments, I have some hang-ups about taking her virginity. My issue when together was that we weren't having sex in our relationship. Not whether she was a virgin or not. Her being a virgin was her reason for being abstinent, but wasn't directly an issue either way to me. If she hadn't been a virgin and wanted to be abstinent, I would have been in the same situation. The title of my last post was not great really. I broke up because we were not having sex, not because she was a virgin. Bear in mind, for 3 years, Ellie had everything she wanted from our relationship. Boyfriend, love, affection, loyalty, support, and a guy who respected her wishes to be abstinent. While she got 100% of what she wanted, for me, there was a big element missing, and there was no way to reconcile that. Either we were having sex or not having it. Sex requires both to say yes, and that wasn't going to happen. With hindsight, I should have ended the relationship early on. When Ellie first told me she wanted to not have sex until marriage. When we got together, I was a naive 19-year-old who had never had a girlfriend before. So I kind of went along with things because I really liked her and got along with her so well. I fell in love with her and then kind of felt stuck in a relationship that wasn't what I wanted. I've learned from this and won't make that mistake in the future. I want to make active, not passive choices in future relationships. To not just go along with things because that's what the other person wants. Our views about sex in our relationship were not compatible, so I ended the relationship rather than waiting any longer hoping she'd change her mind. It was scary to take that step, and I put it off for way too long because I didn't want to hurt her. But I couldn't stay in the relationship just for her. I had to also consider myself too. My mistake was waiting so long to get to that point. I regret that, as it caused her more hurt than if I'd ended it early on. Many of you say that sex just isn't that important, but for me, it is, at least as part of a relationship. You can disagree, that's fine. Some people are fine being in no-sex relationships, no judgment from me, but that's not what I want. Some people took issue with me saying I felt she strung me along. On reflection, that's fair. Ellie was clear to me about not wanting to have sex until marriage. I foolishly stayed way too long, hoping she'd change her mind one day. She didn't. That was my mistake. I strung myself along really. She never led me on in any way. It hurt to learn that she had sex with the next guy relatively quickly after I waited so long. But she is my ex, so that is not my business anymore. She's allowed to change her mind. She can have sex or not with whoever she chooses. I don't get a say in that. My hurt is an emotional response, not a logical one. Logically, I see she did nothing wrong by me. I'll get over it. It's just my bruised ego if I'm honest with myself. Feeling I'm somehow a lesser man because she took that step with the next guy. I know objectively that isn't true, but I sure feel it. I was not a perfect boyfriend and I have made mistakes. I've learned from them. I don't regret breaking up with Ellie and still think it was the right decision for me. Enough background. A few things have happened. Last weekend was the Australia Day long weekend. I was on a camping trip in the Grampians for any Aussies reading, and it was so nice to be in nature, to do some bushwalks with friends and decompress. It felt good to talk about the Ellie situation with my mates around the campfire. Most of them knew Ellie pretty well from our years together, and they had a range of views, just like commenters on my post. And I got the usual good-natured shit about still being a virgin. I learned there's an expensive bottle of scotch they bought a while ago that's going to have its seal cracked when mine is... bastards. Lol. One great question a friend asked was whether I would have ever decided to reach out and take Ellie back if she never reached out to me first. The answer is no. It was so obvious to me. That cut through a lot of the confusion for me. I was being too passive in the situation and needed to do what I wanted, not just react to what Ellie wanted. By the time I was on my way home, I decided to not get back together with her, but that was moot. When I was driving home and got a mobile signal again, no mobile network where we had camped, the network delivered a bunch of messages from Ellie all at once. She said she was wrong to ask me to get back together, and that she's back with Tim, fake name, now. She also texts that the thing with Tim is more serious than she told me when she last met with me. She apologized for misleading me about her and Tim's relationship. If you remember, she called it a fling before. She asked if we could meet to talk about it. I was not happy, so I just text back no. Not very mature of me, but I wasn't in the mood to hear more about all this. I was surprised and pissed off that she lied to me. That seemed very out of character for her. She tried calling me, but I didn't want to answer. She sent another text saying, Tim and I had a fight. I shouldn't have come to you. And finally, I'm sorry. When I got home, I was an idiot and let my curiosity get the better of me. I looked up Tim online. His real given name is uncommon, so it wasn't hard to find. Found him on LinkedIn, which gave me his full name. Ellie is one of his connections and he works at the same firm, so I was confident it is him. He's a director at their firm, one level below partner. He also has pics on Insta. Lots of posts about his adventures around the world at various events and exotic places, as well as shots with an expensive looking car. A few photos of him with Ellie with their arms around each other in Singapore in November. I guess that confirms it was serious. He wouldn't have public pics with her for a casual fling. All that just made me feel bad. No good comes from comparing myself to my ex's successful boyfriend. Ellie is not my girlfriend, and I'm not in competition with Tim, so I won't do that again. My ego's bruised enough already. I've been living a very frugal life my whole time at uni, aka poor as fuck. So I know I can feel inferior when I see people with wealth. That's another me problem to sort out. Anyway, all that was on Sunday afternoon/evening. On Tuesday evening, Ellie knocked at my door. She said that she knows I didn't want to talk to her, but she felt bad about everything and hoped that I would let her explain herself, clear the air. Then I'd never see her again if that's what I wanted. I let her in. I was not happy with recent events, but figured I might at least get a clearer idea of what's going on. It was a long, heavy conversation, over 4 hours, but here's the gist as I remember it. When we broke up, she was devastated. She said it took a couple of months before she started to feel a bit better. She missed me constantly and wanted to see me the whole time, but when I ended it, we agreed to keep apart and heal. In September, she met Tim at work. He manages a different team. She doesn't work for him. She said he was very charming and attractive and showed almost immediate interest in her. They got to know each other and he asked her out. She was worried it was a rebound, but felt so much better getting his attention as she went along with it. After dating for a while, she developed feelings for him, and that later led to a sexual relationship. It wasn't a fling, and she dated him for a while beforehand. I asked about whether he pressured her into sex. Last time she said he was very persistent. She said she was trying not to upset me. She thought if she gave the impression she was reluctant to have sex with Tim, that I wouldn't think badly of her. So it was a story to try and spare my feelings. I told her it just made me worried that she'd been assaulted. She looked shocked at that and said no way. He was actually the one who initiated their sexual relationship. I said although I don't like that she lied to me, I can understand why. I don't think she did anything wrong changing her mind about abstinence. Yes, I was hurt when she told me she was having sex, but I have no right to judge her for anything. She's a single adult and it's her life. I don't think badly of her. She burst into tears and said something like, "I thought you must hate me now." I assured her that I didn't. She said she was sad it didn't work for us, but that she never would have dropped her virginity commitment if we had not broken up. After we broke up, she decided that it was a commitment she made to her dad when she was still a kid, and it was messing with the life she wants now. So by the time she and Tim got into their relationship, she'd already decided that she was ready for sex with the right person. I asked about her dad and she just said he doesn't need to know. I asked about why she asked to get back together. Tim is older. She told me he's 32 and has been at the firm for 10 years. One day at work, one of the women made a snarky comment to Ellie about being another one of Tim's girls. She did some digging and it turns out Tim has a history. He has dated a long list of women from work. Several of them were young graduate employees, just like Ellie. The rumor around the office is that Ellie is just the next girl to be used by him. She was horrified. She accused Tim of using her. They argued and she told him it was over. Soon after that, she came to me. She felt as if we might be able to rekindle things now that she was open to a sexual relationship. But my hesitation and time to calm down made her realize that was a mistake. Over the weekend, Tim asked her to work things out. She decided to give it a chance. She tried to call me, but they went to voicemail. I was camping, so she sent those messages instead. So I guess that's settled. I don't want her back and she's in a relationship, so she doesn't want me back either. We chatted a bit about how our families are going. She congratulated me on finally finishing uni. She asked if I've been seeing anyone, and when I told her I've been studying hard and working a lot since exams, retail job, with no time for girls, she laughed and said I'm still a big nerd. She hoped we could be friendly if we ever see each other, but she wants to keep out of contact out of respect for a relationship with Tim. She wants to give it a real chance of working, which is fair enough. She gave me a hug, said thank you for understanding, and left. So there you have it. Ellie involved me in a relationship drama. Would have preferred she hadn't, but at least it's sorted now. I'm glad I paid attention to my feelings and took time out to consider things, as it could have been very messy if I had taken her back. Trusting my gut has been the biggest lesson for me in all of this. I still care for her despite recent events. It seems like she is dealing with a lot of complicated things between her new relationship and work gossip. I wish her well and hope she'll be happy, whether it's with Tim or not. She was my first love and I expect I'll always have warm memories of her. I'm clear now that I don't want her back. She is in my past and I want to look forward. Well, this has become an essay. Tutors at uni always told me I was too waffly in my writing. Nice. Well, fuck those guys. I'm not a student anymore. I can now focus on launching my new career with no distractions. I've worked so hard for so long to get here. My new job starts on Monday. It's going to be great. It's going to be so great building actual real experience in my new profession. Not just endless theory. I'll be earning much better money, no more student poverty, and I've got graduation in May to look forward to as well. I'm open to finding someone new, but that is way down my priority list. I'm not going to actively pursue that anytime soon. Cheers everyone for your comments and advice. Edit the next day. Okay, you've convinced me. Today I blocked Ellie on everything, since we agreed not to be in touch again. That shouldn't matter, but if she doesn't stick to that agreement, e.g. if she and Tim split and fight again, then it won't be easy for her to contact me again. I thought it was a petty thing to block someone, but in this case you've convinced me that it's a way to take control of the situation. With luck I won't hear from her again, and if I do, like if she knocks on the door, I'll remind her of the agreement and shut her off. Time to stop being passive and take charge of my life. A life Ellie will not be a part of. So a commenter says to OP on that one, saying, glad you came to the conclusion best for you. However, I feel you gave Ellie too much of what she wanted to feel better about herself at the expense of your own emotional well-being. OP says I was already pretty churned up about things from when she first asked to get back together. I wish she hadn't done that, but after she came to see me on Tuesday, it was easier for me. We got to mutually say no to a future together and also put a lot of baggage in the bin. Is Ellie going to be happy? I don't know. I hope so, but I have my doubts about this Tim dude. But you probably can't trust my judgment on that. More relevant to me is whether I'm going to be happy. And the answer is fuck yes, because I'm going to make that happen. OP adds a comment on Ellie changing. OP says, I came to terms with our relationship months ago. When she came back to me, it stirred up some old feelings because we'd been a couple so long. But thinking about it now, that was more of an echo of those memories than real feelings. All of this drama was Ellie's doing. I would have preferred she never involved me so I could have been blissfully ignorant of her romantic life. I prefer not to know about her worldly rich boyfriend or their sex life. She's definitely changed. The Ellie I remember was scrupulous and honest to a fault. The Ellie I have dealt with recently wasn't like that so much. I think that's why her lying to me pissed me off so much. It wasn't just the lying, it was how out of character it seemed. But people change. She's in the business world now, and people there live by different standards to the religious family she grew up in. Anyway, I've cut myself out of her life, so anything that happens with her is hers to deal with. If she comes back to me, I'll remind her we agreed to stay apart and leave it there. I'm not looking for another relationship right now, so no Tinder for me. And no, I'm not looking for casual sex either. I'm a virgin, but I want a meaningful connection, not just sex. As I said in the post, I'm open to something if the right woman came along, but I'm not actively seeking it. That might change after a while, but right now, I want to keep focused on my new career. And a comment from OP on them having closure, and they said, a lot of the comments here act like the final meeting was all for her benefit. Sure, she got some kind of relief or closure out of it, but it was also good for me. Seeing who she is becoming just made it 100% no doubt in my mind that we wouldn't ever make sense. She's changed a lot in the last year, starting when we were still together and she had started her job. Random phrases like work hard, play hard, being generally less kind and more dismissive of others. Clearly, she was being influenced by those around her, but it was her choice to take on those behaviors. I loved the old Ellie, but I'm not sure I even like the current one much. Anyway, I didn't feel like she intruded. I felt like I got a nice, neat ending to the whole thing and can get on with my life with a clear conscience. But we're clear now that it's over forever, and I have a promise that she will stay out of contact. If she ever does try to come back, I can remind her of her own promise and close the door. This post also made it to the best of Redditor updates subreddit, and OP responded in there and said, hi, this was me. Thanks for the comments, and I'll agree with the doormat ones, but I'm learning. We all have our flaws to fix. My job started this week. It's kind of overwhelming and my brain feels full every day. Feels like I've met 50 plus people already and there are plenty more in the company. I can officially say I'm an engineer now, and not just an engineering student, which feels great to say to myself. Radio silence from Ellie. Since she's blocked, that shouldn't change. I also took advice from a few commenters and asked my friends to not pass any messages if she tries to use them to do that. And, you know, I personally love when people express all their feelings in a mature way, like OP did in this situation. I think what they did is totally the right thing to do. Totally separate themselves from the situation. Even after the first post, I was like, yeah, I think, restarting that relationship on the back of what has happened and going into it with these feelings would never be a healthy thing to do. But then everything else that happened afterwards, and it just got totally messy, it just cemented that for me. Some of the other comments had me thinking from sort of Ellie's point of view without OP, and thinking about her background and potential religious trauma around sex and stuff like that, and then meeting this guy and the whole power imbalance of his job and age and things like that, him being in a higher position than her and him already having this bit of a reputation already. And again, that's not OP's problem either, but it did have me thinking down that path as well. And I think OP was right to be blocking because I have to say, it doesn't feel like the way that it was talked about in the story that relationship with Tim is going to last too long. It may do, I don't know, but if it does break up, is Ellie again going to turn around to OP and start messaging him and saying, oh, can we meet up, rebounding or something? Of course, that's all speculation, but there's a potential for it to happen, right? But anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from GFQ and says, boyfriend, male 27, bought his female friend a Tiffany necklace for her birthday. I, female 27, feel weird about it. Help me decide if I'm blowing this out of proportion before I overreact. My boyfriend of 11 months has a best friend, a girl best friend. I've been totally fine with this from the beginning because she was here before me and they've been friends since college. Although I feel it's important to add they've never had the chance to date because they were both in relationships when they met. She's also been single for the past 3 months. Her birthday is this Friday and my boyfriend wanted to get her something really special. I thought that was sweet of him until I realized what he had bought her. Now I feel it's extremely inappropriate and at the risk of sounding like a bitch, I want him to take it back. He claims she's been wanting this specific necklace from Tiffany's forever, so he bought it for her. He refused to tell me how much he spent on it, but I found an identical one on their website that costs $250. Here's the link. And the link instantly points to like a necklace with like a sort of a heart shape hanging off of it, but there's also other products on there as well, so I'm not totally sure. To put it mildly, my boyfriend's really excited to give it to her. He says it's also a thank you gift for helping him get through a couple of shitty semesters at graduate school. She's extremely smart and was in the same program. Okay, fine, but a necklace? Why not a gift card or something less romantic? She wants to have a friend date with him on Thursday as an early birthday celebration, so he's taking her out for lunch or dinner on Thursday, which means they're going to get drunk. I've never had a problem with this girl, but I don't like how close they are. She's always been nice to me, but I can't help but feel they might have some underlying feelings for each other. How can I solve this? Perhaps I could suggest to him that we both get her something and then have him take back the necklace while we still have time. Any ideas? I'm going to start off with Meant for Amazing, who says, I have a male BFF. We go out drinking together. I've met his girlfriends and vice versa. We go out to eat together, etc. But if he were ever to spend that much money on a birthday gift, I'd 1. Think he was crazy and insist he take it back. 2. Think he was romantically interested in me. I think you need to tell him how completely inappropriate this gift is. If he wants to give her a gift card to Tiffany for similar value, I think that would be much more appropriate. But picking out a necklace, a heart necklace, very suspect. Is your boyfriend good at social/interpersonal understanding? Chocolate Heartbreak replies that and says, I want to add to this. If you look through my history, you can see I'm huge on giving benefit of the doubt. However, in this case, even I can't do that. I understand giving an expensive gift because your friend gave you one. I even understand being like, oh, she said she wanted this, then she'll probably love the gift and it'll make her happy. We always want people to like the presents we give them, but the heart is where my benefit of the doubt stops. It's possible your boyfriend is dense and didn't connect it. I've seen plenty of posts here with people who have brain fart moments, but I know it's drilled into everybody's head from commercials, at least in the US, that a heart means love, commitment, etc. I used to give hearts as gifts to friends as a kid, but even then never to a guy. I mean, even in middle school, a heart was something you draw on cards for your female friends, but wouldn't give a guy because they'd think you liked them. And I was 11. Unless your boyfriend lives under a rock or really didn't even think about the implication, I'm not sure this is good news. I don't want to paranoia bandwagon though. I'd suggest just talking to him about it. That you understand she's important, but she might take it the wrong way. And maybe he can get an equally expensive gift or another type if he's trying to equal prices. On the flip side, I'm the type of person who, if I had that kind of money to be spent on a best friend, I would. Hell, if I could buy an iPad for my best friend, I would. Nothing to do with gender or feelings, I just love them as a person, and an expensive gift can be seen as a gesture saying I care about you and think you deserve something nice. Penis Butt says, names, I'm a married female and have a male best friend. For mine and my friends' birthdays, we usually get each other DVDs or joke gifts. I'd be very uncomfortable if my friend got me something like this, and I know my husband would. Is your boyfriend listening to your concerns, or is he blowing them off? D. James says, yeah, I'm sorry, but a Tiffany necklace is not a thank you gift. Tiffany is what you give your lover or wife. Hence why girls freak out when their boyfriends get them something from that store. This is completely inappropriate. I talked to him about it. There is a chance he might just be dense and not understand what this gift symbolizes. And one more comment from Broken Phoenix, who says, it's shaped like a heart. Okay, I could probably forgive giving her a super expensive necklace if she was that important to him. I know how important friends can be. But a heart-shaped necklace? No, not cool, not cool at all. You know why she wants it, why he knows about that specific necklace, because it's shaped like a heart and she wants his heart. I'd be willing to bet anything that the only reason she wants that necklace because she wants it from him. So much wrong here, so much wrong. But OP does come in with her update and says, first of all, thank you all so much for all the support on my prior post. I can't believe how many comments I received. I had a sit down talk with my boyfriend this afternoon. He was very supportive and understanding, for the most part. I explained my feelings to him regarding the Tiffany heart necklace and he immediately agreed to return it. He seemed really disappointed over it, but he said he understood where I was coming from. So what we were going to do was buy her something together as a couple. We'd already came up with a list of ideas and planned to go shopping tomorrow, until the friend date. This is where things got ugly. I explained that I was uncomfortable with the situation because I said I felt like she had feelings for him, which he disagreed with. I asked him if it was okay if I came along and he said, probably, but I should tell her first. So I told him to text her and ask if it was okay, which she did right in front of me. Immediately she replied, I guess, sad face. As we were sitting there talking, she sent a second text that said, why can't it just be you and me? He replied and said he wanted me to come with them, which seemed to piss her off because the next thing she sent is, weird, so if I invite you to this concert next month, it better be just you and me. I already bought you a ticket. He responds and says he can't promise anything. Next thing you know, she texts, great, so in other words, your girlfriend's being a bitch and not letting you see me alone. I have to go to work, we'll talk tonight. The fuck? This just proves that she's a snake. I told my boyfriend I wasn't going to put up with it and that he needs to start making some hard decisions. Immediately he agreed and said he'd fix things. He said he'd end the friendship if he had to in order to keep me. So I guess they're going to meet up and talk tomorrow. Oh, and fuck her birthday. And we do have a final update to this story as well, but I'm just going to give you some comments to show you the general gist of the post. Starting with Whiskey Monk, who says, yeah, for the record, when my male friends start dating someone, I always try to befriend their SO. If I want to hang out with them, I always invite the person they're dating, and I usually do it verbally so the SO is present so they know I want them around. Also, as for my married friends, I always include the both of them for everything. Buying one gift? Too bad, you're buying two. Or something they can both use. I never want any lingering thoughts of insecurity from my friends' wives. A friend is deliberately trying to put a wedge between you guys. That, or she's lacking some serious consideration and manners. Someone says, did he respond to her calling you a bitch? Because that is not something you should put up with. Opie says, yep. He said, I don't talk badly about your boyfriend, so don't talk badly about my girlfriend. Otherwise you can fuck off. She sent back, sorry, with a sad face. Dr. Not Escalator says, honestly, I don't see the friend as a snake. I see her as being blindsided by you suddenly not being okay with them doing things close friends do, like go to dinner or go to concerts together, and she's hurt and confused and lashing out. Maybe not the nicest thing to do, but I can see where she's coming from. They've been friends for a long time. There was no problem, and now suddenly there is. Usually that's the first step to the friendship dying. If it's a close friendship, that sucks. I think you're overreacting a bit by calling her a snake, and so is your boyfriend by saying he'll end the friendship. Calm down and think things through instead of making snap decisions. And one final comment before the update, which says, yeah, your boyfriend really threw you under the bus here. In all honesty, it sounds like your boyfriend is the snake. He buys her flowers and a heart necklace, and he agrees to go to lunch with her alone for her birthday. You find a problem with it, and all of a sudden, with no arguments, he sways it in the complete opposite direction. He then tells her that he can't ever spend any time alone with her without giving her a reason except that you want to chaperone. He's making you out to be controlling, manipulative girlfriend. I'm willing to bet anything when he talks to her he'll be doing some major damage control and calling you a bitch to your back. He acts inappropriately by mistake and then is a super boyfriend. No, he knows exactly what he's doing. This entire story sounds fishy to me. So then OP comes in with their final update and says, I apologize in advance if this comes out to be a huge fucking mess. It turns out he's not as innocent as I'd previously thought, and now I look like a fucking fool here. Last night I stayed at his place and we talked some more. He said he was going to return the necklace first thing in the morning. Well, he lied. I went over to his place on my lunch hour and the damn thing was still laying on his nightstand. He claims he forgot to take it back and will have to do it later. In my guts, I felt like he was stalling me, and I was right. As I mentioned in my prior post, my boyfriend and his best friend were going to have a talk today. I honestly believed he was going to distance himself from her and explain to her that her actions were inappropriate. Well, that didn't happen. After 2 hours without hearing anything from him, I texted him to find out what was going on because I wanted to see him tonight after their talk. He responded and said he just wanted to have a night to himself. Right away, alarm bells were going off in my head because he's sending me short texts and is barely answering any of my questions. I told him his evasive behavior was really beginning to worry me, and he replied, I'm sorry, I'm just confused. I text back, what do you mean you're confused? Confused about what? He took forever to respond, but eventually admitted he was confused about our relationship. Instead of fighting over text, I went over to his place to figure out what the problem was. After lots of arguing, he finally gave me the truth. Apparently, during their talk this afternoon, she told him she's had feelings for him since college and it's gotten to the point now where it's hard for her to be around him. I asked him if the feelings were mutual and he replied, I don't know. In other words, yes. I asked what else was said during this talk and he said she basically feels bad because she feels like she's ruining our relationship and getting in between us. Well, no shit. That's when he brought up the idea of us possibly going on a break so he can sort their friendship out. I told him I would never agree to something like that because it just gives him a license to sleep with her, which brought up my next point. I asked if he ever cheated on me with her and suddenly he became very defensive. He said they only fooled around back when he was single. Funny how he never mentioned that before. I told him I didn't believe him because of how defensive he was. He then admitted that she kissed him during their talk, but he pulled away after a couple of seconds because he felt bad. But that's all that happened. Yeah, I'm not stupid. Even if it was just a kiss, he should have made it clear to her that he wasn't interested. Not this, I don't know if I have feelings for her BS. At that point, I told him that we're done. Our relationship is over. I don't want to be in a relationship with someone I can't trust. He didn't even fight for me. All he did was apologize and said he didn't mean to hurt me. Whatever, it's all bullshit. All the signs were there, but I chose to ignore them. The flowers, the watch, the heart necklace, the way she acted around him, etc. All the signs were there. I'm really trying to look on the bright side. I know I deserve better. I already feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. My relationship wasn't going anywhere, especially with her in the picture, and I should have ended it earlier. I'm extremely grateful that this happened now and not a couple of years down the road when we were engaged or something. I have plenty of great friends and family to lean on for support, so everything will be fine. I'm moving on for good. Thank you everyone for your help over the past couple of days. It's been really therapeutic writing all this stuff down. And I thought I missed a part about the flower and the watch, but there was an additional comment, so I'm just going to add those comments on the very end just so you get the full story. Opie said, "Oh fuck, don't get me started on the flowers. We had an incident on Valentine's Day where he sent her some. He knows better now. Edit, I'll explain. She got dumped the day before Valentine's Day and claimed to be sad because she wasn't going to get any flowers. My boyfriend, being a hero, sent flowers." In another comment, OP quoted someone saying, "Has this relationship between your SO and his BF caused issues before or seemed a bit off?" OP said, not at first. I didn't feel things were off until she gave him a $225 watch for his birthday. I specifically asked her if she had any ideas for me because I wanted to get him something special, and she flat out told me she had no clue what he wanted. Then she pulls that stunt and buys him that watch. Made me feel like shit. I really don't know. It's just weird. I'd never been in a relationship with a guy before that had a best girlfriend. It's like she knows she's special to him and she tries to rub it in my face. She's super sweet to my face, almost to the point of being fake, so it's not like I can call her out or anything. I never understand when they can see their relationships in a hard place and they got this stuff going on, and he's making the suggestion of, "Oh, can we just take a break so I can sort the friendship out?" Basically so he can try both sides and see which he prefers. I mean, that is just, I always find that mind-blowing, that thinking. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story is going to come from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. Doesn't have an update as yet, from Cool Temperature 316, and says, "Am I the arsehole for telling my in-laws that if they want a grandchild, they should give my wife her inheritance now? Basically, my in-laws want their only child, my wife Diana, to start pumping out grandchildren. Diana is 28 and just finishing her PhD. Then she wants to get established in a career before we start a family. My in-laws know how much money I make and they know we could live comfortably off my earnings. This isn't what Diana wants. She has worked her ass off to get where she is and she wants to reap the rewards of her hard work. She also says that once she is working, then I can cut back on my hours and I'm a welder and relax a little. I've been working since I was 15, so literally half my life. I make a very good living in return for a lot of fairly hard work. I've supported Diana and her education. She will graduate without student loans. We have a house, she has a good car, we have a good life. We're on a few more years alone before we start our family." Over Christmas, the in-laws just wouldn't drop it. I finally snapped. I said if they wanted grandchildren, they could reimburse us for her education. They could further pay her the salary she would be giving up. When she returned to work, they could pay her the difference between what she could be earning and her entry-level position. They could pay for a nanny so my wife could work. Or they could back off and wait for us to be ready. They said they couldn't afford all of that. I asked them how they expected us to afford it. I said that if it was really what they wanted, they could just give her the inheritance that would be coming her way now instead of later. They got all offended and said it's not hers until they don't need it anymore. Diana asked me to drop it. She's tried dozens of times to explain to her parents why we are waiting. They just ignore her. They ignore what we want for our lives. They have been very cold since Christmas. They seem to think I was a rude arsehole for pointing out the costs of what they are asking for. A lot of her family agree with them that I went too far in asking them to pay if they want a grandchild now instead of later. I'm going to start off with the bad agent who says not the arsehole. They have to be reminded in very strong terms that is literally none of their business. They have absolutely no say whatsoever in when you both choose to procreate. Not being nice about it, they need to be put in their proper place. If they want a new baby around, their option is to adopt. That's where they have a say. Otherwise, they need to shut the fuck up and back all the way off. HB Headache says not the arsehole, been there. Husband was studying for his PhD and we kept getting that question. Eventually I snapped and pointed out the only person with a permanent job was me and would be waiting until we had one too. Pretty sure it didn't help my relationship with my in-laws, but that was their problem. Corgi Huntress replies to that saying, "Same here, only I was getting the PhD. Father-in-law kept asking us if we were in the pink yet. Eventually he gave up. We had our kid 10 years after we got married, after I got my MA and my PhD and been working. Luckily I went far away so I didn't have to listen to that question often. Thank goodness, or I'd have to say something entirely inappropriate. Now that I think about it, I wish I had. That would have been fun. Bro, what's with the father-in-law saying, in the pink yet? I'm hoping that's something to do with like an actual, like the lines on a pregnancy test. Holy shit. Alpha Wolfrin says, was your snapback harsh and asshole-ish? Yes. Was it deserved? Absolutely. Sometimes we need to be assholes. They were constantly persistent and pressuring you both, despite your wife repeatedly explaining why you both wanted to wait. They needed to be shut down once and for all. Moving forward, if they try to start up again, keep it short and firm. We aren't ready, we aren't discussing this, and move on. ETA, justified arsehole / not the arsehole. Maywell Flower says, not the arsehole, they wanted grandkids that badly, they should help pay for. Yet they have the audacity to want them when they themselves can't afford, while trying to trample your wife's work and career plans. Honestly, your in-laws and their flying monkeys need to shut the fuck up now and forevermore, because when you and her do have children, you and your wife can prevent and block them from being around said children. And a final comment from Kick It, who says, everyone sucks here. Them for pushing and giving you unsolicited opinions about your married life. And both of you for not just having clear boundaries and not just shutting it down straight up. Instead, you got into a stupid back and forth about money. Their finances are none of your business, and your reproductive track is none of their business, so why engage like that? You both need to practice firm boundaries now if you're even considering having kids. Mum and Dad will start a family when and if we are ready at some point, and at that point we will inform you. We'll not engage in any further discussion on this. Change subject here. Each and every time it comes up, shut it down. Leave or end a phone call if you have to. Leave a cooling off period for a while it gets heated. Do not try to engage in back and forth or personal discussion. If you don't engage and you're consistent in response, they can't ignore it. If they really started handing over money, would that actually change your wife's mind anyway? I highly doubt it. She's establishing a career first, which is perfectly normal in this day and age. She responded to the situation in a way that wasn't even meaningful for the situation, nor is it something your wife would have agreed with. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. Put yourself in OP's position. How would you have dealt with it? Maybe you agree with that everyone sucks here comment. Maybe you have a different opinion on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from Throwaway Vampy, and there is a couple of warnings on the story, so if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. It says it contains emotional abuse and manipulation, and also sexual abuse as well. And it says, I've been living with my girlfriend, 26 female, for almost a month, dating for 1.5 years. She's revealing an increasing interest in vampire role-playing, which was fun at first, but now I'm, 24 male, worrying it's going too far. Okay, so basically we've been seeing each other for a while and have talked a lot about moving in together. We spent a lot of time at each other's places anyway. And so once this COVID thing was getting more serious, we figured now was a good time to just bite the bullet and do it. I was nervous, obviously, due to the fact we'd been spending most of the day together. Every day since we don't leave, except to go for food shopping. But I think it's a good test to see if we're okay with this. Then getting married is definitely a realistic option. Obviously, spending a lot of time alone, there is only so much Netflix I can watch, although the massive amount of weed we bought has helped a lot. I haven't smoked much since uni, but figured with this downtime, and we've been having a lot of sex. We used to be pretty active before this and have role-played in the past, and have done a vampire one before. However now, since moving in, it's been popping back up very frequently. And while it was a bit of a laugh the first few times, she's now focusing a lot more on the authenticity. I did not realize there was so much knowledge available about vampires. And not to go into too much detail, but while she's in character, she is apparently a Samgwein, S-A-M-G-W-E-I-N, which is not Elvish or Welsh apparently. I am almost always a powerless regular human, which I'm cool with, but I don't really want to do homework to prep for roleplay accuracy. At the start, it was just some light bondage and biting, which was cool, but now, more recently, it's turning into heavier duty restraints and there is more biting, which I was okay with, but after the third time of her drawing blood, I've asked her to reduce the bites. They were dangerous, it was mainly around the upper shoulder, which she was annoyed and called me boring. I now see her practicing these fancy ass knots all day. And while I can't see what she's doing on her computer, my gut is that she is researching more vampire stuff. And I should add that she has started doing more vampire stuff in her everyday life, which I thought was her doing a bit at first, but now I'm less sure. I am non-religious, but her family is Christian, I think. She was never really actively practicing, but she did have a few Jesus-y things about, like a cross necklace she wore, which I found all bundled together in a bag stuffed in the back of the wardrobe. She's still fine with garlic. What the hell? I have spoken to her several times about all this before I decided to post, but it always involves a lot of deflection and her telling me not to worry and that I'm overthinking and to just have another joint or drink. I'm just worrying that this is an escalating situation to maybe cope with the quarantine or moving in. Is there anything I should be worried about? Has anyone had a similar situation with their partner? We are entering unknown territory here, folks. Holy moly. But yeah, there's definitely a problem if, you're expressing your concerns and your boundaries, if you like, and she's saying, no, just go and smoke a joint or whatever, and that you're overthinking the situation. No, you got a boundary and that should be respected. But Salt Working comes in with some information. They said, okay, I'm going to unwrap some freaky stuff for you to digest. Sanguine, spelled S-A-N-G-U-I-N-E, refers to people who actually believe they are vampires and get life-sustaining nutrients from ingesting blood. Most of these people believe they only need a few drops to last them a while, though this depends on the person. Other people feed off pranic energy. Most vital is sexual in nature, like biting someone or taking their energy during sex. After reading your story, I have a reason to believe your girlfriend thinks she's an actual vampire and is just telling you it's a character to not be criticized. There are groups out there who believe this as well. They get donors, regular non-vampires, to donate energy or drops of blood for them. However, these groups have ethical guidelines and do not believe you can take this from people without their full consent of what's going on. You can look for resources online about this type of thing, but your girlfriend is not being open and honest. She's manipulating the situation. I would say while she may not be physically dangerous, she is mentally. My advice, break up with her. If you like vampire chicks, make sure they are open and honest and they get your consent first. She ain't the one. Edit. Also, she's fine with garlic. Make-believe characters have a problem with it. People who believe they are vampires don't. At best, she believes she's a vampire and is manipulating you while draining you without your consent. At worst, she is mentally unstable, sadistic, and doesn't care about your consent. How well do you know her? Don't sleep with your eyes closed. Holy shit, you learn new stuff and scare yourself at the same time on Reddit sometimes. Holy moly. Melindell19 says, plenty of good advice in here, but I just want to add one important note. Human mouths are filthy, and a human bite can become a serious infection. Make sure your tetanus vaccine is up to date. Seriously. People who play and believe they are vampires don't bite each other for that reason. They cut and are very careful about sanitation. Panty Panda says, listen, I think it's important to point out that her being into vampire stuff isn't really the problem. People can be into vampire stuff and that's fine. The most important thing here is that your partner is going against your wishes during sex without your consent and then shaming you for it. She's also doing things that are upsetting or concerning you, and instead of actually talking about it, she's telling you to smoke weed or drink to forget about it. That's incredibly fucked up. If at all possible, we'd have a serious conversation about it, and if it can't happen or she doesn't want to cooperate, I would leave her. So, OP did come in with her update and says, so I'm aware this is kinda a delayed update, but in all honesty, after making the post I was fully prepared to leave it, move on and deal with it myself. As well as some personal issues, I just didn't really see this as a priority for me. I just want to say I read lots of the comments, even a few of the Twitter ones, and the first thing I want to get off my chest is that, holy fuck, it's Sanguine, not Sam Gwain. OP originally thought it was like a name. I feel like such a fucking idiot. It made research so much easier. I watched all of the Lord of the Rings but didn't learn anything about them. My friend is part Welsh, but he didn't know what I meant and had to drop it quickly to avoid embarrassment. There was so many results on it online and it seemed pretty daunting, so I didn't read much into it yet. I'm waiting for when I'm in a good reading mood. I would just get straight to the point and say I don't know exactly what I would call the current status on my relationship with her, but it's definitely ending. I'm thankful people recognize my situation as potentially abusive. It sounds weird, but until it was pointed out, it hadn't really clicked with me. She has always been somewhat assertive before. She works in a demanding field and knows what she wants. And I've been all too willing to go along with anything because she always knew better. For the first week after my post, I skirted around the idea of saying anything to her because she gets very upset easily, and I didn't want to have a confrontation. Most arguments we had seemed one-sided, and I would always compromise in the end, even doing stuff I wasn't comfortable with. The vampire stuff isn't the first weird horror roleplay we've had. I was happy to go along with the vamp stuff because it required literally hours less preparation than some of the other stuff we did. The silver lining was that I never had to do much. She would do 95% of the prep. She spent hours one time doing makeup, and all I had to do was get a red balloon. I think that level of dedication is something I really admire about her. Things had calmed down for the first and second week, probably because my girlfriend's work had picked up, and she mentioned some developments into memorizing me. I think to draw. She's a really nifty artist, and truth be told, a nice distraction from the world events. I have even begun cooking recently as a hobby, and so lent more into that. Although I struggle with cooking with meat, it makes me feel sick. I've only really started eating it in the last few months, as it made making dishes for the both of us a lot easier. I also reduced my smoking quite a bit, as I feel like it was harming my judgment. And I only really have a couple of beers a day at most now, and I feel a lot more healthy. After this, I was feeling myself in a much healthier mindset, and so a couple of weeks ago at dinner, I brought up the vampire stuff. Although she took that to mean I wanted to progress it further. I wish I could say I was able to summarize my feelings succinctly, but for some reason, as soon as I started saying I wasn't comfortable with the direction this was all taking, I started hyperventilating and had what I think was a panic attack. My girlfriend started crying. She thought I was having a heart attack or something, and her inhaler did fuck all as well. After I'd calmed down, I was able to get across to her what I was trying to say. But it turned heated quite quickly. She said I was trying to shame her, but all I was trying to say was that I didn't want to bleed. It's not normal to go through this many plasters. I'd aimed that as a joke, which is the go-to method to diffuse a situation, but she did not consider it funny at all, which is stupid because I'm the one who was being bled. We didn't really talk for a couple of days and tensions were high, but we had a rational discussion a few days ago where we came to the conclusion the relationship wasn't working. Obviously, we can't just up and leave right now, so we're still together for the time being. But once we can freely move about, we can split up and move away from each other. I think this is quite a healthy resolution. I'm sorry if some of you expected something more horrifying in this update, and I won't lie, some of the comments I read had me seriously worried for my life. But I know her better than you would based on a single internet post, and she is a good person. And that was OP's last post on the matter, and I hope that they did split up, because regardless of what OP says at the very end there saying that they know her better and she's a good person, it certainly didn't feel like that at the very end of this post for me. She saw that you were struggling with that conversation, was worried for you, etc. And when you did calm down and you was trying to express what you were saying, it turned heated quite quickly. And she said that you're trying to shame her, so she was trying to switch the situation back around you rather than accept that you had boundaries like you did in the first post, and she played down your concerns in that one as well. The simple fact of the matter is, consent needs to go both ways with these things. You're not shaming her for not wanting to take part in it. You're not shaming her for saying that you don't want to bleed. And I'm not trying to make light of this situation because obviously what OP is going through is pretty serious for them, right? I had to pause on the red balloon thing and it's thinking, oh my word, what's she up to now? And I have to admit, it instantly made me think of Pennywise. It made me think of the film It. Single red balloon. I think that would pop up in most people's heads. Maybe that's just me. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below and what you think of this story. Holy moly. Wasn't expecting that one first thing in the morning. But let's move on to another story. And our next story does come with an update as well from MinuteShip4330 from the Am I Wrong subreddit, who says, I didn't invite one of my best friends to my girlfriend's birthday and he's upset. I'm 26 male. My girlfriend, 22 female, is turning 23 in March, and I'm organising a surprise birthday dinner for her at a large restaurant with some of mine and her friends. We've been dating since December 2020, and I plan on proposing to her this year. She likes most of my friends, except for one of them. One of my best friends, 26 male, who I've known since 2009 when we were 12 years old, despises him. She says he's rude and insufferable to be around. Her friends also don't like him. I don't know why, but whenever we're all together, those two don't get along. He's also more critical of her to me than any of my other friends. To be fair, he's like that towards everyone's girlfriend. He prides himself on being a shit talker, but the rest of us have learned to ignore him. It's to the point where my girl explicitly tells me she won't go out with my friends and I if he's there. I hate to use an Office reference, but it's almost comparable to how much Pam and Ryan don't like each other in the later seasons, except slightly worse. So of course, I'd be stupid to invite him to her birthday party, right? I thought that was a pretty reasonable decision. I told her earlier this month I'd take her to a fancy and expensive Mediterranean restaurant she's always been wanting to go to for her birthday as a date. What she doesn't know is I made the reservation for 20 people. 6 of my friends who she likes, 13 of hers and her sister. They all know. We have a group chat and we're keeping it a secret. Today at work, he messages me asking where his invite was. I'm not even sure how he found out, but obviously one of my friends must have let it slip. Which doesn't make sense since we agreed he shouldn't be there. I explained that she doesn't really like him and inviting him to her birthday would be disrespectful, adding in that if it were mine, he'd be one of the first I'd invite. He tells me how betrayed he felt that I left him out like that on such a big occasion, and a few more blocks of text venting to me. Never seen him that serious. He's usually a goofball in our text convos. I mean, I feel bad leaving him out, but why would I invite someone my girlfriend actively dislikes to her birthday? Am I wrong? Now, the first line that popped into my head after I read this is, that's just how I am. You've got to excuse his shit because that's just how he is excuse. We've seen it time and time again. And, the girlfriend knows this. All her friends don't want to be around him either. And even yourself know this because he prides himself on being a shit talker, but it's all excused because that's just how he is. Shove that noise. The fact is, he needs to be told that he's making a whole bunch of people uncomfortable, and that's why he's not being invited to places. And the fact that when he was told about this, instead of taking a step back, of course, yeah, you're going to be shocked to be told that someone doesn't like you, of course, but to label yourself as a shit talker and then find out when someone doesn't like you that should seriously make you take a step back and think, shit, yeah, I've really messed up here. Can I have the chance to apologize? A bit of self-reflection of some sort, but it wasn't. He continued to complain at how he feels betrayed and send you blocks of text venting to you. Kind of says it all to me, but relevant comments. Crocodile Zebra Milk says, so your girlfriend sees your friend's behavior as an issue and refuses to be around him. Her friends see your friend's behavior as an issue and refuse to be around him. You and your friends admit you all see an issue and choose to ignore it. It sounds like your best friend is the arsehole wherever he goes, and you and your friend group just enable his behavior to the point where he thinks it's okay to continue to act this way. Opie says, when I say we ignore it, I just mean we just stop taking a lot of what he says with more than a grain of salt. You tell him to shut the fuck up a lot of the time, but if he doesn't listen, then hey, what can you do? He wasn't always like this. Just happened in the past 2 years. Not a bad person, but can be annoying as fuck sometimes, which we also tell him to his face. Local Gazelle 538 says, tell him if he stops being an arsehole and shit talking, then he might get invited to things. Tell him all your friend group is over it and he needs to cut it out. If something happened 2 years ago to change his personality, then suggest therapy. Opie says, I think it was literally just spending time online 24/7 during 2020 and 2021. And someone suggests to OP that his girlfriend is controlling him and not letting him have friends, and OP says she's not controlling at all. Never told me I can't be friends with him, but she hates his guts and personally doesn't want to see his face. So OP does come back in to update the post and says, I work remote once a week and decided that today, because I didn't get much sleep last night and was dealing with a stressful situation. I gave my friend the time and space that he needed before giving him a call at 9 AM. I spent about a full minute apologizing for going behind his back and making him feel left out of the whole situation. Before I could continue, he apologized to me for overreacting and feeling entitled. After that, I spent about 5 minutes telling him that the way he behaves in front of her friends, and other people's girlfriends is unacceptable. He needs to work on the way that he treats them and other people outside our friend group. I told him that this is my future wife, the future mother of my children. She will be a part of my life and just as importantly, his life as well if we are friends. I'm not going to ignore any more disrespect towards my woman, and if he keeps this up, he will not be able to make it to our wedding. I told him that he's important to me and I want him to be a part of our life, but in order for that to happen, he needs to find a way to fix his behavior around our partners. I told him he needs to apologize to her, and since she is a very forgiving and caring person, she'd be more than willing to give him another chance if and only if he swears to never cross this boundary of shit stirring again. There's a reason her friends don't like him, and we, his friend group, can respect that decision. I also told them that if he ever wants to sit down with me and talk about what's been causing him to act so childish since 2021, then I'm here for him. He gave me an equally long talk, apologizing and telling me he didn't perceive his words to be more than mere banter, although they were very clearly more than that, lol. Told me he swore to keep my girl's name out of his mouth in any disrespectful way as well. As of now, we've agreed that he should meet my girlfriend and her sister, 20 or 21 I forgot, in person and apologize to both, since she also really doesn't like him, and they had a bit of an argument the one and only time they met. He told me he sort of likes her sister. Which sort of made sense, but I told him to forget that idea since she already hates him, and the farthest he'll ever get with her is forgiveness and tolerance at this point. Anyway, that's it. Sort of boring, but I'm glad we sorted it out. He also accepted that he won't be at her birthday. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to go in the future. It sort of made me feel a bit uneasy. The fact that, the only time that sister's met him, they basically had a falling out and he's going to meet her again. And the first thing that pops into his head is like, I sort of like her. Maybe we can go out on a date. Like, dude, she hates your guts, man. Don't even go down that road. But what do you guys make of this situation? A couple of wild ones there today. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from a throwaway account from the relationship advice subreddit and says, my 40 male, wife 36 female was seen holding hands with another man. My wife 36 female and I 40 male have been together for 5 years and got married last year. We definitely have our ups and downs, but we're generally happy. On Friday, she went out with people from her work for Christmas drinks and arrived home around midnight absolutely hammered. She just said she had a good time and went straight to bed. Yesterday, I got a message on Instagram from an anonymous account, claiming to be one of her colleagues, saying she'd been flirting all night with one of the guys from the office, 44 male, and they'd left together about 9 to walk to the train station. The colleague had a couple more drinks, then went to the station herself, and says she saw my wife walking hand in hand with a guy through the station at about 10:45. They didn't see her. Last night I showed her the message and asked her for an explanation. She claimed she was so drunk she doesn't remember anything that happened after about 8 PM. I asked if she went somewhere with the guy after they left the group, and she checked the location history on her phone, which confirmed they'd gone to a bar near the station for about an hour. They arrived at the station at 10:40. She gave me her phone and insisted I check it, and there were no suspicious messages or anything. As far as I could tell, she doesn't have the guy's number in her phone, and they're not following each other on Instagram or friends on Facebook. I asked if she was flirting with him, and she admitted that she was talking mostly to him all night, but that's just because he's the only person in her office that she has anything in common with, and that they're just friends and it wasn't flirting. She mentioned this guy to me before and said how much they have in common. I asked if they were holding hands, and she said she doesn't remember, but she doesn't think so. She claims to know who sent me the message and says it's a woman in the office who hates her, although she doesn't know why. Today she's been in a terrible mood and we've not really spoken. So that's where we are. I'm not sure what to do. Is this as big as a red flag as it seems to be? And we're starting the comments with okay but not okay, who says there's a collection of issues here, but the terrible mood today seems a big one. The information you received is largely correct. It looks a bit fishy, and instead of reassurance she is in retaliation mode. No doubt focusing on her office rival. She should be apologizing and doing what she can to defuse the situation. Getting so drunk you can't recall and focusing on a particular man and going off privately with him. I wonder what she would feel if this was something you had done. Tell her to lose the attitude and figure out how she plans to sort this out. That Sloth Duke replies to that saying OP should really focus on this advice. She voluntarily gave up her phone for examination. Unless she has a second cell phone, chances are that she isn't having an affair. OP should check her car for it. If there is no affair, she should at least be attracted to him to get to a point where she is holding hands with him. That combined with the fact that she isn't going into crisis mode but is generally just pissed at her colleague points to the fact that she is just a shitty partner. Not necessarily a cheater, but a very shitty partner nevertheless. I don't know, for me in this one, just the holding hands and flirty would be enough to be raising my suspicions, absolutely. And of course, I got no proof of the situation at all, and it might be, as always, just one too many Reddit stories read. This is giving me bad vibes. Admirable ad says your wife should be more worried about a relationship with you, but she's all about the office fight. Bro, the other person did you a solid. Now you know. Cheaters who are good use burner phones, so her phone being clean means nothing. Instead of reassuring you she's in a foul mood. Really? Time to start planning an exit. If you can reach out to the man she's left with spouse, show her your evidence. She needs the truth as well. Start using condoms while having sex with her. Get STD checked. If she asks why the condoms, tell her your irresponsible drunken nights you cannot remember, so you went for STD tests. She should do the same. Bro, for me, this is an end all. A reaction of not even considering this can harm you is telling. And a final comment from new arrival who says, so she probably wasn't blackout drunk. She most likely just saw an opportunity and left the party to spend time with a co-worker she's been talking about and had her eye on for some time. Adults don't leave a party for 4 hours to just walk around a train station holding hands. You are getting trickle truth. Unless she goes totally no contact with this co-worker, and that included getting a new job, the end result is you will find out she had an emotional affair and probably a physical affair that will continue as long as she works with him. So OP does update the post and says, a few people requested an update to my last post, and a lot has happened in the last week, so here it is. I'll post any further updates on my profile. Sam came home from work on Monday and casually said that she'd spoken with the guy, Tom, and he'd confirmed that they hadn't held hands, they'd just been walking arm in arm because she was drunk and wearing heels. I asked why her colleague, Helen, would make an Instagram account, track me down and message me saying they held hands if it wasn't true. She said Helen is basically in love with Tom and made a pass at him just after his divorce, but he rejected her. I asked why Helen would feel threatened by her. She says because her and Tom are friends and Helen's a crazy jealous bitch, as evidenced by the Instagram message. I asked why she went for a drink, just her and Tom. She said that according to Tom, they walked past this bar with an amazing live band playing, so they stopped in for a drink. Her only regret was doing too many shots too early and getting shit-faced. The next day, she went shopping after work and came home with a new dress. I asked what the occasion was, and she said her work Christmas party. Last week was just drinks with people from her office. The company Christmas party is on Friday. Apparently, she had mentioned this. I hardly slept that night. The next day, I decided to reply to the Instagram message to get some more info. I asked, do you think anything's going on with them? Helen, I assume, quickly replied with a long message saying that they flirt at work and everyone's noticed. Apparently Sam was going to be let go, but Tom put in a good word, so she kept her job. Tom protects her in the office and will constantly defend her. She's also said that Sam bitches about me to the whole office, and it's clear we don't have a happy marriage. I asked if she was going to the Christmas party, and she said she was. She said she'd update me if anything happened. Sam finished work early on Friday, so she had time to get ready. She looked amazing, and I really didn't want her to go, but I felt like I couldn't say anything. I got an Instagram message about midnight saying Sam and Tom hadn't interacted at the party, but that people from the office had decided to leave and go to a different bar. They all left just before 11, and were at the new bar by 10 past. Sam arrived home about 2 a.m, not quite as drunk as last time, and went straight to sleep. I pretended to be fast asleep. I looked at location history on her phone. After leaving the venue, she'd taken a 3-mile detour to a residential street, stayed for half an hour, then gone to the bar. I sent the address to Helen. She didn't reply until the next morning when she said it was Tom's house. When Sam woke up, I just asked her straight out if she cheated on me with Tom last night. She angrily denied it. I told her that I knew she'd been to Tom's house. She accused me of spying on her, called me controlling, said she was going to stay with her sister. I demanded an explanation, and she said she went to his house so they could smoke a joint before heading to the bar. Then she stormed out. She wouldn't reply to my messages or answer my calls all Sunday. I called her sister, who said she hadn't seen her, but she texted me later that she'd spoken to Sam and she was okay. Sam came home yesterday morning. I asked where she had been, and she just said she couldn't do this anymore and wants a divorce. She went to start packing some clothes while I tried to get her to talk to me. I asked if she was leaving me for Tom. She once again denied anything inappropriate had happened between them, but said my jealousy was the final straw. It's clear I don't trust her. I'm controlling. I take her for granted. She's deeply unhappy. Has been for a while. So she's gone. It looks like I'll be spending my first Christmas alone. I have no idea if she was telling the truth or if it was an affair. Weirdly, I'm not feeling too bad today, so maybe this is for the best. And we have OP's final update. It starts off, when she was gone, Sam blocked me on all her social media and refused to return my messages or answer my calls. I ended up traveling to the other side of the country to spend Christmas with my parents. On Christmas Eve, Sam came home and took more of her stuff. I watched her on our security cameras. I tried phoning her, but she ignored my calls. Christmas wasn't great, and my parents were both shocked and in denial about what has happened. They had no idea we were having issues and insisted Sam would come to her senses and come home. Eventually, I just said she had met someone else. I returned home on the 27th. I'd been getting sporadic updates from Sam's sister, just letting me know she's alright, but without any details. Before all this happened, we made plans to spend New Year's Eve at Sam's favourite bar in the city. I went on my own, but she didn't show up. On Tuesday night, I received an Instagram message from Helen saying that Sam and Tom had arrived at work together in Tom's car. I didn't bother replying. On Wednesday night, she sent another message saying Sam was poisoning the office against her and that Tom was pushing upper management to transfer her to another office or get rid of her. She begged me to do something. I texted Sam and said we needed to talk, but she didn't reply. So the next day, I called her work switchboard, gave a fake name, and got put through. I could tell she wasn't happy to hear my voice, but she agreed to meet up after work at a local pub and talk. I got there early and she arrived 25 minutes late. She apologized for ignoring my calls and said she still cares about me and wants to end things on good terms. I said just tell me the truth. She promised that she wasn't having an affair with Tom and they were just friends. She admitted that they talk a lot in the office, but insisted it wasn't an emotional affair. She understands why I was suspicious after the Instagram message, but said I should have accepted her denial and trusted her. She has a lot of male friends, but she felt like she couldn't hang out with them because I'd get jealous. I pointed out that I've never told her not to hang out with anyone, but she said I'd be in a mood whenever she'd hang out with a guy friend. She feels like we only got married to try and fix a relationship that was already broken. Our conversations have devolved into small talk and we've drifted apart. I said I'd heard that she and Tom arrived at work together. Sam said she went to Tom's after I accused her of cheating and knew it was over between us. They spent the weekend together and agreed they'd make a better couple than we did. She needed me to know that nothing happened between them until after she told me she wanted a divorce. And now they were together, and she wanted me to hear it from her before I saw it on social media. Tom was waiting outside for her in the car. All I could do was stand up and walk out. Sam texted me saying she knew I was upset, but not to do anything stupid. I blocked her number. I'm not gonna lie, it was a rough night. The next day I was just numb. Didn't really do much. Over the weekend I dug out our marriage certificate so I can start divorce proceedings. I have no idea what to say to Helen, so I haven't replied. I think the plan now is to try and find a new job closer to my hometown. I moved across the country to live with Sam and I've never really felt settled here. I also don't want to run into her and Tom around town. Luckily, we rent. This will probably be my last update unless something miraculous happens, so thanks for reading. I'm not buying the whole didn't cheat thing and she only got with Tom after they had broken up, etc, etc. It just doesn't feel like that to me. The whole, being at his place for half an hour just to go and smoke a joint apparently. There's an absolute possibility. There's an absolute possibility that it might be a rebound relationship, etc, etc. But all of this just feels out there to me. Apparently these were just good friends at work, just colleagues, that would talk to each other, etc, etc. But then as soon as they broke up, she went to spend like the weekend with him and then just decided instantly like this, that we'd make a better couple than I did with my husband. Yeah, it just feels off, but what's your thoughts on this one? Maybe you got a different take on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. It does have an update as well from Throwaway Car Man. And before we do get into it, just a quick warning, there's discussions of death of a pet within the story. So if you want to skip it, please feel free to do so. You know where these timestamps are. And it's titled, Am I the Arsehole for buying a brand new car, even though my fiance said not to, even though we needed it? So me, 28 male, and my fiance Ashley, 30 female, have been together for 8 years. I'm the only one who drives as she doesn't have a license, so she relies on me when transportation is an issue, going to work, getting groceries, etc. As for my car, it's a piece of shit. I love it when people are just blunt like that. I've had it for 5 years and I do not know how I managed to make it last this long. It has nearly 250,000 miles on it. It needs 4 new tires, new brakes, the engine is worn, and according to the mechanic, the transmission will go any day. So getting a new car was a pretty big priority, at least for me anyway. Ashley didn't see it that way. She did not want me to get a new car at all. She started an argument with me that it would be too expensive and we won't have any money for our wedding later this year if we buy one. But I have money. I've budgeted a lot and I could afford to buy a brand new car without digging into my savings, and so I have plenty left in my checking. Granted, yes, I could have just bought a used car, but I swore to myself to get a brand new one because I don't want high maintenance costs again. Despite showing her the numbers and everything and even agreeing that we'd still have plenty of money, she still refused. I decided that I would get a new car anyway and bought one, paid in full, earlier this week. She was extremely pissed. Since then, Ashley has been avoiding me and figuring out other costly means of transportation on her own. The way I see it, getting a new car was an absolute necessity, but she did not think so. Did I really do something wrong? Should I have bought a used car? Is there something else I was missing? There was a couple of comments Opie added in replies to people, so someone's talking about the finances. Opie said, it was purely my money and my money alone. We have separate finances. Someone says, did she have trouble with you buying a new car or just a car in general? Opie said she had an issue with me buying another car in general. She wanted me to keep my current car until it died for whatever reason. Someone says, this is a clear sign you shouldn't be married yet as your relationship is not healthy. Opie says, if you're talking about her driving license, she has tried multiple times but failed each time. But Tater Sprout says, not the arsehole. A reliable vehicle is more important than spending that money on a wedding. This old car was already a money pit. Given her reaction, I would postpone the wedding. She doesn't get to make all the decisions herself. She isn't mature enough to be married to. Isaac the Madman says, not the arsehole. You are not married. It's your car, your money, and your life. Whether she sees it as a necessity or not, she has no right to be mad at you for spending your own money to buy yourself something that needed replacing. Stevie says, as you have separate finances, not the arsehole. Though, take this opportunity to take a step back and reevaluate your relationship. If you two are struggling to come to an agreement about buying a car, do you think your communication and compromisability will get better in the future, simply because you got married? And a final comment from Jewel Cat Lady who says, not the arsehole, she doesn't drive. You don't say if she pays for gas at all. It was your savings from your income. You just completely dismissed potentially dangerous and expensive issues. Hydroplane on overworn tires. Good luck keeping the car Good luck keeping the car on the road and away from other cars or obstacles. Transmission goes out at speed on the freeway, but I hope you can get to the shoulder without anyone hitting you. Either this woman is completely delusional about motor vehicles and finances, or she doesn't give a fuck. Hope that you'll put the wedding on hold at least, if not, cancel altogether. So, a couple of days later, OP comes back in to update the post and says, "Hello everyone. Thank you all for commenting on my post. There is something I would like to address before getting to the update. There's a few lengthy threads about how Ashley must be using weaponizing competence since she's failed a driver's test several times. The written part she has passed, it's the driving section that she fails all the time. You see, she has ADHD and is on the spectrum, so she tenses up a lot when she gets behind the wheel. While her anxiety has gone down in recent years, driving is still a sore spot. Now, many of you, including me, believe that this was all just financial abuse and she wanted control of my money. Well, we were all wrong. Yesterday I went to take care of a few errands, and when I came back, Ashley came to me with tears. It looked like she'd been crying for a long time. She apologized for getting angry at me and for avoiding me. She said she knew my old car was on its last legs and knew a new one was necessary. She also understood that there would be plenty of money left. Ashley admitted she wasn't mad about the money, it was actually the memories of my old car. She only mentioned the wedding because she didn't want to sound pathetic and seemed to be the most obvious choice. You see, last year we had a 14-year-old German Shepherd that we sadly had put down after she got cancer. Ashley had her ever since she was a pup and loved her very much, and so did I. Ashley was an absolute mess after that. We never took down her crate and had placed her old blankets, pillows, as well as her leash and collar in it. What does this have to do with my car? I still had her old blanket in my old car whenever we took her out. Some of her fur was still in the back seat, as I almost never vacuumed the back. Ashley was afraid of forgetting her, and that's why she wanted me to keep the car. I assured Ashley that I love her and that I loved her dog. If it meant anything, I took the blanket out of the car, which she asked me to place in the crate. I donated my old car, but the tow truck won't be there to pick it up until tomorrow, so she asked to see the old car one last time. So we drove to the lot and she had a tearful goodbye over it. I took her out to eat after that to get her mind away from it. So there you have it, everyone. This was never about money. And there was one more relevant comment from OP, which was in response to this comment, which said this relationship won't survive if she doesn't get therapy, to which OP said, unfortunately she takes a psychiatrist seriously, but a therapist, nada. And there was a lot of people sharing their stories of their attachments to their old vehicles. You know, some people, it was like their step to adulthood, if you like, their step to freedom. So they have strong memories, strong bonds with their first car, and told their stories of how tough it was to get rid of theirs. So what about you when you got rid of your first car? Did it affect you in any way? For myself, to be honest, I couldn't wait to get rid of my first car. It was a Renault Clio and the clutch was a right knobhead on it. Some other people saying that they find Ashley exhausting, but what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from In My Feelings But I Don't Know and says, am I the arsehole for refusing to pay a friend who paid for my wedding dress? Hey Reddit, I was looking to buy this dress from a brand in New York City. Because I'm not based there, the only option was to go through a retailer where I'm based at, and that would cost $2.4K, excluding alterations. I found a listing from Still White, and it was the exact dress I wanted in my size and brand new. The previous owner had cancelled her wedding for $900. Just to clarify, Still White is like a wedding dress marketplace, if you like. Anyway, we continue. My longtime friend from school, Serena, who happened to be in New York at the time, agreed to pick it up for me and bring it back with her to where I'm based, where she's also from. I was really grateful and happy, and I was even intending to gift her $100 on top of the Uber rides to and from the place. I said I would reimburse it as a token of my appreciation. However, my joy turned to shock, horror, dismay, and disbelief when I saw Serena's Instagram story, showcasing her trying on my wedding dress. I called her out for it, telling her I wasn't happy she not only tried it on without my permission, but posted it for the public to see. She didn't take it down even after a conversation we had about this. To make matters worse, she admitted she collected the dress posing as me. For an email bill later, I noticed that the dress had also been altered. What the fuck? On the spot. All without my knowledge or consent. When confronted, Serena nonchalantly stated that it was her one chance to try on a wedding gown and insisted I should get over it and reimburse her the $900 she paid for the dress. My wedding dress experience was entirely hijacked. I'm now hesitant to pay her back. This all happened yesterday and she reached out today to ask for the money back and told me to get over it because she needs to make a big purchase tomorrow and it would help her cash flow. Since she wants it so bad, she can now have it. Am I the arsehole? Someone did ask Opie, they said what kind of alterations can be done on the spot. Opie says it was a waist alteration. For context, this bridal shop has a seamstress in-house, and for dresses to board off the rack they offer an on-the-spot alterations unless it is significant. In this case, it was the waist. Now, I'm not quite sure where the updates are going to go on this one, but it's just one of those stories where I'm trying to put myself in that position. She's picking up this dress and she just feels the need to pose as you and try it on. I'm thinking, what is going through your mind? And then to put the pictures on social media as well. Oh, dearie me. The dress is technically second-hand now as she's tried it on. She altered it as well. I don't know if I'm making this sound more dramatic than it needs to be, but I certainly wouldn't want to be taking that dress now. How do you feel about that one? But Bop says, not the arsehole. She had it altered. Wow, it's officially her dress now. Lucky her. Her one chance to try on a wedding gown is now her lifetime of owning a wedding gown. She can try it on whenever she wants. Next commenter says, not the arsehole. You need a new dress and that woman is not your friend. She wants to be in the spot and use your wedding dress to get views. Uninvite her now or she'll be the one in a blush pink lace dress at your wedding. Now if she has it in writing that you said you'd pay for the dress, she can try and sue you. Now you can try and counter-sue due to her getting the dress altered to her without your permission, possibly causing more financial problems with any future alterations. I wouldn't pay my friend for ruining the surprise of my wedding dress that I was excited I found. I would have to take some time before I hunt for one again just to make sure there is no sour taste left in my mouth after this experience. Ferrara says, as a bride who is keeping a keen eagle eye on Still White, I had to pick myself up from the floor after reading this. She had it altered. What the actual fuck? Nah, that's hers. She always wanted to try on a wedding dress. Well, lucky her, now she owns one and can try it on anytime she wants. Let's have one final comment from Sparkly Sherbet 151 who says, not the arsehole. I can't believe she had some alterations made so your dress fitted her properly. That's seriously messed up. The entitlement of the situation, and she doesn't even understand what she has done. Well, her one chance to try on a wedding gown has turned into one chance to own a wedding gown because she's ruined it. Don't give her any money. She needs to learn that she can't treat friends like that. But OP did come in with her update and said, first of all, thank you everyone for being so empathetic and indignant on my behalf. I don't feel crazy anymore. When I saw her post, I completely lost it. I cried so pathetically. I know everyone must be wondering why I'm even friends with Serena and how that reflects on me as a person too. Serena and I go a long way back. I've always known Serena is a shitty friend, but I still kept her around because of her mental health struggles. I was the only friend connected to her family, so if anything, I'd have been the one to sound the alarm. I don't think I could have lived with the guilt if anything really happened to Serena. But well, I guess my job is done because Serena's audacity tells me she's in a much better place. Good for her. Moving forward. I don't have the dress on hand yet because it's still in New York with her. She's coming back to where we're based February 24th. I agree that she was doing me a favor, and for that I think I will still pay her for the dress. After all, it is $900, but with the following terms. 1. I will only pay her upon receipt of the dress. The trust is completely broken. I don't know what else she might do to the dress. Sleep in it? I unfortunately need this leverage over her until I have it in my hands. Else she has no incentive to keep her hands off of it. For all I know, she chucked it in a dusty storage to spite me. 2. I will pay her for the $900 minus the cost of dry cleaning and alterations. It's like borrowing a friend's clothing and not washing it before returning it. Did I mention she also tried it after a Pilates class without showering? Lol. I think this arrangement is fair and I would not owe her anything. 3. I will end this friendship. To be honest, I think if Serena and I met as adults, we wouldn't be friends. The friendship has ran its course, and I think I did the best I could in this. She for real said I'm pulling an Anna Sorokin on her. Serena called me a con artist and isn't even sorry that she rained all over my parade. Friend? Human? 4. She's uninvited. Need I say more? Then Opie adds a second update which says, Serena had actually told me there was lipstick stains on the dress and offered to buy a stain pen. Later I found out from the shop owner that the stains were actually caused by Serena. So Serena not only lied blatantly but tried to cover up her vile behaviour by coming across as helpful. I have since reverted to Serena and gave her 2 options. 1. Sell it to me at half the cost to cover alterations and dry cleaning. 2. Sell it to someone else. She chose option 2 and showed no true remorse. End of story and friendship. Shout out to my friends and Reddit community. Happy holidays everyone. And many people after this one were saying there should have been no options on the table. You shouldn't have paid her anything. OP should never have offered to pay her anything for that dress. And basically the best outcome come from this. You're no longer friends with that person, and you haven't got a dress which someone else has tried on, got lipstick over. There's a little part of me thinking that she's still going to return with this dress and expect OP to buy it when she can't sell it for whatever reason. But what do you guys make of this situation? What would you do in OP's position? I really hope OP does go on to find their dream dress, of course, but let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story does have an update as well from the Am I Wrong subreddit from Tasty Bandicoot 7567 and says, Am I wrong for kissing another man under mistletoe, despite my boyfriend telling me it was okay? It's really late where I live. Everyone I could contact for advice is asleep, so I'm here instead. I'm completely freaking out over this, so apologies if there are grammar mistakes. Also, this is a burner account. My friends know my other one. My boyfriend Nick, male 29, and I, female 26, went to a Christmas party his cousin was hosting. His cousin is really into community get-togethers, so a lot of their neighbours were there, as well as some family members of theirs. Someone brought a piece of mistletoe and was going around the party getting people to kiss. Towards the end of the night, I was sitting on one of the sofas talking to their family friend, John, male 37. I've met him quite a few times before, so we were chatting for a while and just joking around. Nick was by the kitchen part of the room talking to his cousins and some childhood friends. The house is open plan, so their living room, dining room and kitchen is all one big room. At this point, a neighbour I'm not too familiar with came over with a mistletoe for John and I to kiss under. I understood that this neighbour didn't know me or that I'm with Nick, so I laughed it off and said I'll skip my turn. This neighbour seemed drunk and was being loud, insisting that it's a tradition, that we had to do it and all that kind of stuff. John went to move away when Nick and one of his friends noticed the commotion and joined in. I think Nick saw it as a joke and hence found it funny to join in, encouraging John and I to kiss. I told him, as in Nick, why doesn't he get over here and I kiss him instead? But Nick kept insisting that I give John a kiss. It was extremely awkward for the both of us. John kept trying to change the topic and even got up to leave, but Nick seemed serious about it as his tone changed from being jokey to serious. I said to John that I don't mind kissing the side of his mouth/cheek, and he said as long as it's okay with everyone, and if it make them shut up then fine. And so I kissed him by the corner of his mouth, and that was it. Everyone dispersed and Nick didn't seem bothered about it and even cheered before going back to his cousins. While driving home, Nick was quiet, so I asked him what was wrong. He said that he didn't think I would actually kiss John and that it left a bad feeling in his gut. I said that I only did it because he was encouraging it. Seemed like he didn't mind the kiss considering the circumstances, and because I thought it was in good fun. This led to a big fight that I won't go into, but it ended in Nick saying that he was thinking about proposing to me on Christmas, but that this put things into perspective for him. I'm sleeping on the couch for the night and feel absolutely terrible. Please let me know if I'm being a complete jackass. So a comment which OP replied to, C Attitude says, alcohol changes all perspectives. He put you in the spot. You didn't want any part of it. It wasn't like he laid a big French kiss. Remind him it was under his insistence that you did. Him being an arsehat has made you put things in perspective too, not the arsehole. OP says, just to quickly clarify who was drinking. Had a few cocktails but wasn't completely drunk. If anything, I was just a bit tipsy, so I sobered up immediately when we started arguing. I know John had at least one drink while we were talking. I don't know how many he had before that point. And Nick was driving, so he didn't drink any alcohol. And we're starting the comments with Shantsu, who says, it does put things into perspective. Nick's a wanker. Bloody hell, he can't tell you to do something, practically force you by the sounds of it, and then blame you. And why the heck are you on the couch? I hate every part of this story. I really don't like Nick. Fangirl Queen 69 says in quotes, I told him, as in Nick, why don't he get over here and I'll kiss him instead, but Nick kept insisting that I give John a kiss. And then says, this is where I say you are not wrong. You literally offered to kiss your boyfriend instead and he turned you down and told you to kiss John instead. What did he expect to happen? You said no. You volunteered your boyfriend in John's place and he still kept insisting you kiss John. I've heard of testing people in a relationship, which is wrong, but this is a whole different level. Next commenter says in quotes, I told him, as in Nick, why doesn't he get over here and I'll give him a kiss instead, but Nick kept insisting that I give John a kiss and says, I mean, you didn't want to. He pushed you into doing something you didn't want to do and now he's mad at you. If someone's willing to cancel a proposal over you doing something he told you to do, it sounds like you dodged a bullet. Hell, why even tell you he was thinking about it other than to make you feel worse? I bet he was as serious about the proposal as he was about encouraging the kiss. From Sheila Monarch, who says, oh, I see it. This was a setup. And this is the thing he's going to hold over your head to get you to turn over control, privacy and freedom that you otherwise might not. Now you'll be desperate to prove yourself at every turn. Don't fall for this gambit. Stand your ground and shrug off his pissiness about it. Adults have to use the words they mean. Not your fault he didn't. Win Accomplished says he wasn't thinking about proposing to you. He's being a complete arsehat. He basically pressured you into it. What the fuck was he expecting you to do after continuously pressuring you? In fact, if I were in your shoes, I'd tell him that his behavior put things in perspective and pack my shit and leave. I don't stand for manipulation of any kind. I don't even care, Bear says he wasn't going to propose. He's emotionally abusing you hard. Look it up, because I know people throw these terms around often. I say it around these often, because it is that common. But him forcing you to go along with and laughing and being fine in public, then silent and picking the fight over it, then throwing out there how he's about to propose but now doesn't trust you to do it, and gave you attitude into feeling guilty and sleeping on the couch. He doesn't love you, and he's fucking with you. If he was going to genuinely propose because he loves you, this wouldn't have happened like this at all. And last comment from Joranot Smith, who says, I'm sorry, but Nick is a manipulative piece of shit. He definitely knows what he is doing by testing the love you both have. Yes, I know for sure that there was no engagement that was going to happen anytime. Nick is a manipulative person. For all we know, he might be the cheat in this relationship and just want to have a ground when it becomes an issue. So OP comes back in the new year and says, hi everyone and happy new year. I just wanted to give a quick update and thank everyone who commented on my first post. I really appreciate those who gave their perspective, and while it was completely overwhelming, it definitely opened my eyes. I tried talking things out with Nick in the hopes of getting some answers, but every time we talked it ended in an argument. I tried asking if I could see the engagement ring, why he encouraged me to kiss John, and why he wouldn't kiss me instead when I suggested that at the party. But every time I asked, it would blow up into this big fight about me not trusting him. This was his excuse for not showing me the ring, or accuse me of trying to drag out the situation more than it needed to be. To cut a long story short, we broke up Christmas Eve. I went to spend the holidays with my mum and I'm currently staying at hers while I try to sort through this. I wasn't going to make an update about this, but yesterday John texted me. For context, usually a lot of Nick's family and friends go to a specific New Year's party in our town, which I didn't attend this year for obvious reasons. John said he was hoping to talk to me about this there, but that when he went, he found out about Nick and I breaking up, so he decided to text me instead. Anyways, John apologized for letting the mistletoe thing escalate to the point that we kissed. I also apologized in case I made him feel uncomfortable and said it was a shitty situation for both of us to be in. John said that the reason he was hesitant to walk away while the others were pressuring us was because, according to him, it was very obvious that I was drunk. John didn't want to leave me alone with them in case one of them stepped in to try and kiss me instead. He also feared that they would take it further, considering they clearly didn't see any issue in the fact that I was drunk. I thanked them for looking out for me, and to be honest, I had no idea that I was that drunk, which is embarrassing to say the least. Also, what I didn't know until yesterday was that after the kiss, John pulled Nick aside and confronted him. Nick never mentioned this to me. John said he basically berated Nick for encouraging that kind of behavior and for not protecting me. I'm honestly shocked Nick never mentioned this to me. It kind of makes sense if he felt embarrassed by John confronting him. I should also add that John apologized in case that was why Nick was annoyed at me after the party. That's it, but thank you all once again. I'm still not over any of this, and I'm very tearful by how everything went down, but I'm so extremely grateful for the support I found on here. Seriously, I cannot thank you all enough for your insight. Livid Parfait says to OP in this one, if John knew you were that drunk, why did he kiss you knowing you had a boyfriend? Why not just stomp the whole thing down and not kiss you? Why did he confront Nick? If he had not kissed you, no need for a beatdown. This must have not been a peck on the lips, but a full-blown kiss. I do not give alcohol a pass on a reason for anything. Couples should keep their shit together at parties. This is the classic case of two wrongs do not make it right. OP says, I mentioned in my original post that it was a kiss on the cheek, and for full transparency and fair judgment, I said I got the corner of his mouth too. It was not a full-blown kiss on the lips. Also, just to clarify now, it was a peck and did not linger or anything like that. I didn't realize I should have reiterated that in my update. That's on me. Sorry about that. And a lot of people saying that the breakup was the right solution in this situation, questioning if there was ever going to be a proposal at all. What do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from Throwaway After, who says, my 42 female best friend, 42 female, told my husband, 44 male, I cheated and he's leaving. I'll go right ahead and say the obvious. I deserve this. I'm the villain. It's all my fault, I know. But my goodness, I can't handle this. I'm posting here in the hopes that someone has advice on how to win back a betrayed spouse. Back in 2001, yes, 20 years ago, I was young and dumb and did something horrible. I'd been with my husband, boyfriend at the time, for 5 years at that point. We grew up in the same hometown, part of the same friend group as kids, and fell in love in high school. We've been together ever since. After college, however, I got it into my head that my relationship was holding me down and stifling my self-expression. My best friend Julia agreed with the sentiment. Together we'd go out clubbing, leaving our boyfriends at home. We wouldn't do anything bad, but there was still a thrill to knowing that other guys were looking at us. Well, as they say, never play with fire. The more we partied, the more Julia wanted to cheat. Eventually she started making out with other guys at clubs, and I'm ashamed to say that for a few nights I did the same, dancing with guys and kissing them. I put a stop to this after a few such incidents. I felt disgusted with myself, with her, with these strangers I was kissing, and most of all I felt horrible about cheating on the love of my life. I told her that I couldn't hang out with her anymore if she was going to continue her cheating ways. She understood and she put a stop to it as well. Of course, all my moral indignation didn't give me the courage to actually fess up to what I did, so we kept it our secret. Skip 20 years later. I've hence married that boyfriend, and he's my husband now. We have 4 children, 18, 17, 14 and 14. Over these 20 years, my best friend has practically faded out of the dating pool entirely. She has a successful business of her own, inherited from family, and she dedicates her life to running it. Her social life is essentially hanging out with me or my husband and sometimes babysitting the kids. Well, it turns out that she's gotten so chummy with my husband that one night in February of this year, she had too much to drink and she ended up letting spill our little cheating incidents back in the day. She didn't mention that I only did it 4 times, kissing 4 different guys in total. Understandably, she doesn't remember those specifics, she just remembers that she cheated for almost an entire year and remembers I was doing generally the same. To make matters worse, she said this while my oldest son was upstairs and my son heard everything. I was away for the weekend with our 3 other kids, visiting my parents, and my poor husband had to calm my son down while also trying to make sense of what Julia was telling him. I never knew that the night I left would be the last time the love of my life would ever kiss me. I came home the next day and my husband sat me down and asked me point blank if I ever cheated on him. I could tell from the look in his eyes that he knew everything. I admitted that I had. He was so calm that it scared me. I was afraid for his well-being. He's usually so proud and charismatic, and that day he just looked serene, detached from our relationship, detached from me. He told me that he wants a DNA test on all of our children, which I of course agreed to, because they are his. He's the only man I've ever slept with. We waited for the test results for 1 week, and my son wanted nothing to do with me during this time. When the results came back, I thought that we could finally start on rebuilding our foundation of trust. I had all the energy in the world to put in our marriage and to show my man that I was worth his time and his love. The day the results came back, he told me he wanted a divorce. We have been separated since March of this year. He has pursued a condo in the downtown area of our city. My oldest 2 kids spend 100% of their time there, while my youngest twins split their time with me and him. He refuses to go to marital counselling. Our jurisdiction has a 6-month wait before a divorce can be finalised, and that expired in October. So as if October 23rd, I'm a 42-year-old divorcee with 4 kids, 2 of whom hate me. The others see me as the reason their lives were upturned. I cut Julia out of my life. I know this wasn't her fault. I know I was the one who chose to lie and I deserve the consequences, but still I associate my life's total ruin to her. I blame her, even though it doesn't make sense. And just last weekend, one of my younger kids mentioned that Julia has been sleeping over at my husband's condo. I am incensed with jealousy and hatred for her, and anguish at this whole situation. I need to win him back. This isn't how our lives are supposed to end. We have worked so damn hard to build our home, and he can't share it all with her, while I rot out here in the cold. Even the thought of calling him my ex makes me want to shrivel up and disappear. Yes, and from the post, it looks like OP knows that they totally, royally messed up here. And you got to stand in husband's shoes in this one and say, how does he feel in this situation? 20 years ago he finds out that there was lies from that long ago. Surely it would just make you question everything, and it has. Wanting the DNA test, it just makes you think you can't trust this person through all these years, that this lie from 20 years has come up now. And me personally, I can't give any advice that would help in this situation, because I don't think I could trust someone who'd done that to me either. It would leave me questioning absolutely everything. He just has to take your word that it was kissing, and it wasn't just kissing, it's a betrayal of trust. That's the big thing here. But what is Julia up to that she's staying around his condo now? That does raise some questions. Did she intentionally bring out this news to split you up? Maybe she liked your husband. Just some things that were going through my head as I was reading. Maybe totally false though. But we do have an update to this one, which we'll cover in a moment. But first we're going to cover some comments. And I went into OP's comment history to see if they replied to anyone, to see if we could get any additional information. Not that we particularly need it in this one, but Dan Roman79 says, gotta say, after reading both of these posts, there is nothing about this relationship that seems healthy in any way. I think I'd worry more about rebuilding your relationship with your kids more than anything. OP says, yep, my kids are always my priority. I know these posts here in the relationship subreddit probably don't capture that, but that's because I'm not asking for advice about my children, so I don't focus on that aspect. The reality is right now my older 2 boys don't want to talk to me. I've had my younger girls talk to their older brothers about this, and what they tell me is that they don't want a relationship with me right now. I don't want to force the subject because I fear they will only withdraw further. I still keep close tabs on their studies, and in the last few months I've been able to help with their scheduling. Still, no direct conversations though. Next in line is mine replies that saying, why do you think your oldest sons are out of contact with you? OP replies saying, I don't want to go into too much detail because it hurts to talk about it, and that's really not the point of this thread. To summarise, my oldest son witnessed his father cry for the first and only, I pray, time in his life. This happened the night that Julia said what she did in her drunken stupor. Julia was too far gone to actually answer any follow-up questions or to temper her words, and now she can't even remember what she said, so I'm assuming she phrased it in the most vulgar way possible. She's a mean drunk, and sometimes she will say things in distasteful ways for no reason. My oldest son idolizes my husband, and so does my second son. My husband is their hero in a very real way. He used to coach basketball in their school. All the kids in elementary and middle school adored him, and I know our sons were always very proud of that. And in general, my husband's got an aura to him that makes people want to stay close. So to see him cry must have shattered my poor son's heart. He then told his younger brother, and the two of them have cut me out of their lives ever since. OK Replacement says, your biggest mistake, not counting cheating, was hiding it for 20 years. It's their entire relationship. For him, it is as if everything were false and a lie. Not only that, but you could also be calm with all that. As he sees it, their relationship was built on the basis of a lie and he never knew it. There are many cases where it can be recovered, but in this, I do not think it would be possible, at least in a few years. The amount of time is too much and it's literally their entire relationship. What have you been doing all this time that you've been separated? Have you been with someone else? He refuses to talk to you. I hope you update. OP replied saying, I haven't been with anyone else. There have been plenty of opportunities, but I'm just not interested. This is almost entirely because the thought of a relationship with anyone but him repulses me. I can't explain it as anything beyond just a carnal revolt in my stomach. I don't want to hold some other guy's hand. I don't want some other guy's arm around me. I don't want any of it. I've been focusing on my two younger kids. We all moved back to my mother's house. She's old and needs someone to help her, and it hurt me too much to stay at our old house because it feels so empty without him. I recognise that I am probably lingering at the outskirts of depression, as I've lost about 30 pounds since we separated. A few times a week I will message him or message my two older sons, and dutifully they ignore me. So now we're going to head on to the update to see what that says. Well, I did something I never thought I'd do. I unblocked Julia and reached out to her. We set up a time to meet for coffee at my mum's house when the place would be empty. We spoke for hours, though I can't say that it was like old times. I found myself stuck with a tenseness in my stomach. I realised I still hate her for what she did. I'll never be able to let loose with her like I once did, and that's a reality I have to accept. Anyway, reiterate the facts as she told them. What were her intentions in telling my husband about my cheating? It was purely a drunken mistake with no real rhyme or reason behind it. She doesn't even remember it happening. She just remembers my oldest son being very short with her the next morning and my husband later explaining what she had said. How did she behave with my husband after the revelation? My husband cut her off a day or so after I did. He did this because a few days after the incident via text, she tried to convince him that she was drunk and confused. But this happened after he had confronted me, so he knew that it was the truth she had spilled. He wanted space from her because he associated her to all of my lies. How did she get back in touch with him after he blocked her? He didn't block her, he just told her to not contact him again. She promised to keep her distance from him and the kids. 3 months later, she reached out to him again because she has been getting help with her alcohol abuse and she wanted to apologize for all the harm she did. After that conversation, they kept in touch. Why is she spending nights at his place? She'd been finding it hard to stay at home alone during winter because of her old drinking habits and wanted some company. She sleeps in the guest bedroom and obviously they don't drink together or anything. She apologized for the confusion it caused my twin daughters. I allowed myself to feel hopeful here. They are not together. This wasn't some grand conspiracy for her to steal him away. I still have a chance. But I had to make sure. Did she ever sleep with him? Yes. After the divorce finalized, they hooked up a few times to let off steam. She insisted that I shouldn't worry because they never tried to pursue a relationship. There's way too much resentment and baggage for it to work, and she doesn't think she's his type. There it is. I cried when she admitted this. She cried and apologized. I must have told her that I hated her 1,000 times. I really do hate her. I hate her more than I thought it was possible. She knows how much I love him. She knows how much I need him, and yet she still manages to knock things over and out of place no matter how it hurts me. I told her to get out after that. I haven't blocked her again. She wants to be back in my life, but there's no chance in hell I ever want to lay my eyes on her if she's sleeping with a man I love. I know some women can swallow their pride and do it, but I can't. So that's where I'm at. At least they're not in love or running off to get married. I tell myself that he's just using her to try and fill a hole in his heart. I tell myself that letting off steam is not how anyone would describe meaningful sex. It's a physical reaction to stress and circumstance. But then I remember what she said about her not being his type. I wish I asked her if she's dating now, or if he has eyes on someone. I wish I wrote down notes on what I wanted to learn and express instead of just going in unprepared. My emotions got the best of me, and now here I am weeping again until my body hurts from exhaustion. This hasn't helped my obsession with the prospect of him moving on. All this meeting has done is humble me at the thought of him and her making love. I can't let this go on. I need to get him back before he falls in love with someone else. Given the new information I've learned, does anyone have any advice on what to do? And there's just a couple of posts on that update that I'd like to read out. One from unknown928121 who quotes, "I can't let this go on. I need to get him back before he falls in love with someone else." Then goes on to say, "Use these feelings as motivation to better yourself. Get therapy, get a hobby, write a book, do something, but let this man go." Catharsism says this, "My biggest concern here is that OP began dating her ex-husband at 15, married around 21, had kids, etc. And now she's in her 40s, divorced, and still trying to win him back. She's never been a person without him, so she's heavily dependent on him, and that she has no idea how to be whole without him or exist without him. OP, you need therapy. Not family counselling or marital counselling, you need to learn to be your own person. I understand that you're in a world of hurt, especially with your children cutting you off, but right now you need to accept that this is your life now and you need to get a hold of yourself. If for no other reason than the fact that suffering for this long will not help anyone, not you, not your kids, and it won't bring your ex back. You need to get up and start working on yourself, even if you feel you deserve to suffer and feel guilty. This was 20 years ago. You cannot change what happened 20 years ago. You didn't murder a family, you didn't abuse your children, you made a series of bad decisions that cost you your marriage. Whether or not I or anyone else think that his reaction is justified is not relevant. Your marriage is over, but your life isn't over. You cannot live your entire life revolving around another human being. You've suffered enough. Life is complicated, people are complicated. People make bad decisions and tough choices and have a right to feel the way they feel, but the world is still spinning. The sun is still shining. You need to get up and get therapy and start picking up the pieces for your own sake. Just because you don't get to have your ex back doesn't mean you don't get to live and function as a human being. You don't need to feel miserable forever, even if it feels inevitable, and you don't deserve to feel miserable forever. Not for something like this, even if you don't deserve to have your husband, which is entirely his decision, no one else's. You do deserve to be able to exist and function as an independent person and, God forbid, feel moderately okay to even happy, even if you don't think you deserve it." And one more from Luna Muna, who replies that one saying, "I have to say though that this Julia is truly an evil person. Goaded her into fooling around all those years ago, presented her few weeks as a year, which she herself did, blew up the marriage after almost 2 decades, and then goes and sleeps with her separate husband. It's almost cartoonishly evil. I feel like she felt jealous she didn't have the relationship OP had, and well, now OP doesn't. Doesn't take away from OP's misdeeds, but what a terrible thing. What ex-husband is doing isn't healthy either, sleeping with evil ex-best friend." Now, what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to one more story. And it's from Sal Slytherin, who says, "My husband beat cancer and now he's given up on our marriage. It's been 6 months since my 21 female husband, 21 male, has a stem cell transplant. This was in conjunction with chemotherapy to help improve his quality of life if the chemo worked as treatment. He had metastatic brain cancer in his bones and his chances weren't good. He still has to worry about the cancer coming back in the future, but the treatment did work, and now he's back to normal life. Except nothing has been normal. He's been depressed ever since he got home from the transplant. I've tried talking to him about it and showing my support. I talked to his family, basically just telling them he's feeling burned out and asked if they could reach out more. I've tried to handle a lot of my own struggles on my own. I have clinical depression and now I'm recovering from pushing that aside to be his caregiver for 2 years. I'm in counselling and I still work full time. This past week he told me he's been thinking about it for a few weeks and he doesn't think he can do this anymore. This being our marriage. He says I always take my anger out on him and the past year has been all about me. I took a few deep breaths and told him that's hard to believe since in this past year all I've done is work and use all my vacation days on being there for his treatments. This summer we used all our extra money on him getting his dream motorcycle and all the accessories to go with it. We had planned on getting me one too, but it ended up being too expensive, so we agreed on him doing the motorcycle course and getting a bike himself. I've been focused on my therapy and healing. I've been going to work every day. I also got basically ghosted by my best friends after she got married this summer. I've had repressed memories and childhood traumas come up in the last month that I've been working through basically on my own. My husband knows, but we've had a total of 2 conversations about it, and when I try bringing it up, he makes the conversation about something unrelated. I said I wanted us to go to marriage counselling, since he's been refusing to see his own therapist or counsellor for the last 3 years. He finally got himself a counsellor instead, and I feel like it's too late for that. After he told me this week he thought our relationship was over, I snapped. I told him if he was giving up, then I wasn't going to shut up about the pain I'm dealing with anymore. I am always forced to be quiet and listen to him talk about what he's been going through. And I've done it happily our entire marriage, and to hear him say these things felt like the ultimate betrayal. Now he wants to take it back. He says he never should have said that, and he wants me to give him time to work with his counsellor and heal. But I still think the problem isn't addressed. He thinks the last year ahead has been about me, when our entire marriage has been about him, and he never acknowledged that. He refuses to talk about his treatment and things we were together for, but he makes jokes about his own funeral, even though it makes me cry. Does anyone have advice or questions are welcome? I think he's given up, and now that he's verbalized it, part of me just wants to be done. And there isn't too many comments on this one, and the comments that are there are just saying, be done with it. You don't have to put up with this. Cancer doesn't make you do these things or be horrible to someone else, etc. And I found it very interesting that it got to the point of you totally having enough of it after he said, he wants to split up with you and he's had enough of this being your marriage, doesn't want to listen to you with, some issues that you may be facing. And then when you finally exploded and said, this feels like the ultimate betrayal, then he wants to take it back and wants you to give him time to work with his counsellor and heal. But you also went on to say he still thinks the last year ahead is being all about OP, which whether we're talking about, husband's depression or whatever's going on at the moment, it's still an incredibly horrible situation for OP to be dealing with after everything that they went through, taking days off work to help them through their treatment, to help with everything. And I know OP is doing it out of love. We all do these things out of love, but it is no small task to help people through cancer. And I know that might sound like a horrible thing to say, but it is a big uptaking. I mean, I often bring up my dad in these situations and dealing with, him and going through his chemo and the many appointments he has. I mean, I can't count how many times I was in hospital with my father for appointment, checkups, chemo, lung drains, just so much stuff going on. It was an absolute whirlwind of a time. To then feel like that was potentially thrown in your face after all of this must hurt. And as I said, we do this out of love. We don't do this for recognition from the other person. But then to be treated negatively after the fact must incredibly hurt. So I'm going to be very interested to know how the update goes. So let's dive straight into it. Update. Here's the skinny. My 21 female, husband 21 male, had 2 years of intense treatment for cancer. He went into remission after a stem cell transplant this past spring. Ever since, he's been negligent of my feelings and our relationship. He rarely wants to do anything I want to do, and there's always a reason why we can't at the time. But he'll never consider it again after he said no, and this is about stupid things like going to the zoo or out late on a weeknight. He won't spend any extra money on me, even to get a lamp to go over my vanity or new clothes when I've hardly shopped since we got married. I make my own money, but he does all the budgets. When he was in treatment, we developed a system where I'd send him what he needed to pay the bills. He'd send my money back to me if there was extra. When we moved in this spring, our rent went up and he said we had to cut our spending money. He told me to just keep $100 every month and send him the rest. I don't. I always say there's a few extra things I need to keep money for and hang on to a bit. But I still end up with a very little in my account, and I always told him that I wasn't okay with doing that for more than a month or two while we figured out our finances. I'm not comfortable just sending all my money to him to handle, but ever since it's been reason after reason why we haven't been able to merge our accounts. He said a few times that he understands why I want a joint account, but he doesn't see the difference since he's my husband and I can trust him with it. He knows my parents are really bad with money and they never taught me to manage money. Sometimes he hints at that when I talk about wanting to share in our finances. But I had more savings than my husband ever did. I owned my own car before he even had one, and then his dad paid for half of it. I paid for our wedding. It was small, but it was still nice and cost about $8,000. While we were engaged, he bought a pickup that died before our wedding. He spent his savings paying the rest of the loan on it, about $10,000. I paid first and last on our apartment and covered rent while he couldn't find a job. This is after I got him a job at a pizzeria I'd been at for 6 months. He got us both fired. He always says they were shady anyways, which is true, but not the point. After my original post, I told him I want to set up a mutual fund, so we can at least have our cash and bills coming from the same place. He just asked me to move the appointment with the bank, then a few minutes later came out with a plan he and his brother made for us to get a joint checking account. I said that's not a mutual fund and I want to do what we already planned. At this point, the red flags are off the map. I've talked, we've talked, he explained and explained, but things never get better for me. I can't focus on myself at all because I'm basically babysitting a grown man. I have so much healing to do and I want to do it together, but he's not letting it happen. I think I should be over, but part of me wants to keep fighting for this. After everything, I just want us to work so bad. Could this possibly be salvageable? If not, how do I pick myself up enough to face that fact? Edits, I got stoned 22 hours into replying to my comment, so that's why I'm chatty. Thanks so very much to everyone who's helping me think this through. Tonight I cancelled our 2022 trip to Mexico. I think it's time I leave this relationship, and again, thank you so much to everyone who helped me realise that. I plan to update in a few days. I'll probably still need advice and I'll let you know how it's going. Now at the point in that update where you said red flags, I was feeling the red flags too. This does seem like some sort of financial abuse to me, and the fact that you can't get this joint account that you keep asking for multiple times, and why is his brother involved? And when he said to you, when you mentioned it, you should be able to basically trust me. You should be able to trust me to look after the account. You're bad with money kind of thing. And the way husband is going about this, I think you're potentially doing the right thing. He doesn't sound like he's changing very much and even doubling down in some aspects of your relationship. But I really hope it does work out for you and maybe go 2022 trip to Mexico by yourself. I hope everything works out for you, OP. And what do you guys make of this one? What advice would you give to OP about their relationship? What would you do if you was in their shoes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.